Welcome everybody to Lions, Lies, and Billy Goats, episode number 35. I'm Jeff. That's Paul. Our guest today is Rob. Rob, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Good. Good. Paul, how are you?
I'm good.
Wonderful.
How are you?
All right. I got no real plans today, except for I guess we'll just kind of see how it goes. But
Yeah. We're just
so
gonna talk shit, huh?
basically, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. I looked into that futurism shit for a second, so I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
But
All right.
we'll get to it eventually. Paul, how is the movie game?
Slow, very slow.
What's the hot flick?
It's probably Mickey 17, but I don't necessarily want to say that it's hot. At least not. I've been working a lot of day shifts, and it hasn't hit for me. But maybe it's busy at night. I don't know. But we got like Snow White coming out next week.
I heard that got pushed again.
Oh, did it?
That's what I saw today, but who knows?
Oh yeah, it could be. I haven't been to work in 2 days because
That was like there was controversy around Snow White, right? Because
Yeah.
of like what was it? Because it's like DEI Snow White or something, right? Or what was the issue?
Rachel
Yeah,
Zegler, I think, is the issue.
Yeah, and
Oh,
then,
she's just been going nuts in interviews, huh?
Saying
Yeah.
stupid shit.
and then they did something with the dwarves that they were like too diverse or whatever. Like it didn't make any sense.
They were too diverse.
Yeah, but they weren't even like short people. They were like regular people.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
then-
real quick, there's a couple things with the dwarves. They
Yeah.
release.
Right.
And
Go
then
ahead.
they got rid of the dwarves, real actors, and then put in CGI, little cartoon actors.
It's hard to find good dwarf talent these days, dude.
I guess.
They essentially what happened was they released like a screenshot or a picture or whatever of the dwarves, and yeah, like you said, they're just normal people.
Yeah, it's
Then
unacceptable.
instead of something like that happened because what's his name, Peter Dinklage, the guy who plays Tyrion in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Dude.
He had mentioned
that guy.
something about it being like discriminatory to like to cast dwarves, which actually had a
Yes.
massive backlash in the dwarf community or the little people community, whatever they call themselves. Because they said, hey, you're costing us jobs, so Disney, instead of like writing the scenario, writing the ship and casting little people, decided to go CGI. And yeah, there's been some backlash.
So all the
about that.
dwarves are CGI.
Yes.
Yeah, so they reshot it instead of recasting little people or whatever, doing whatever they should have done in the first place. They reshot all the scenes with computers.
Dude, honestly, they got bigger problems anyway. They need to worry about making Star Wars not suck, man. Because
Good luck with that.
that new trilogy, man. Oh,
Yeah, good
That was
luck
tough.
with that. The
Right, but-
Acolyte is the most recent Star Wars IP, and it bombed miserably.
I didn't even watch the shit.
Neither did
normally
I.
like to watch all the Star Wars that I can, but not anymore. I'm good, bro.
It's so after they made the last three or 7, 8, and 9, besides that, have you liked any of the spinoffs? The Mandalorian, I think Rogue One was good, and I like the Han Solo flick.
I have a weird issue with The Mandalorian. I liked The Mandalorian. I was invested. I was into it like everybody else. And then, spoiler warning, Luke comes to get Grogu, and then he's going to go do the training with him and shit. And then it was just like, to me, it was just such a blatant situation of like, they realized that something was polling really well with people, and they just kind of just shortcutted the story to cater to the fact that people wanted to see more Grogu with The Mandalorian. And so
Baby Yoda, right?
yeah, Baby Yoda. So they just dumped him back in his car. I know if you watch the book of Boba Fett, it explains, but that show was ass. And then they're like, he's with Luke, he's learning stuff, and he's just like, no, I'd rather hang out with the Mandalorian. You get to the next season of the Mandalorian after this big cliffhanger where Luke just bodies all those, black robots. And they just drop Grogu back in the front seat of his car, and it's just like, hey, he's back, And it was just like, for me, I was like, you did that because people want to see them together. It's not because it made sense for the story, and I kind of checked out after that.
Yeah, I stopped watching The Mandalorian during season 2. I stopped, and then I never caught back up.
Yeah.
I would agree with both of you. I think the first 2 seasons are good. And yeah, spoiler alert, that scene where Luke shows up, it actually made me tear up. I thought it was fantastic. And
It was gangster.
Then they completely dropped the ball with Book
Totally.
of Boba Fett and then going into
Totally.
season 3. But the first
Yeah.
2 seasons are definitely worth watching.
Dude, weird tangent on that though. You know how we were talking about going into odd levels of detail with things. I looked into just adjacent research from like trying to figure some stuff out with Boba Fett or whatever. That little the mouth that eats him in like the OG trilogy when he
Mhm.
falls into it. There's a YouTube video out there that describes exactly how that thing kills you, and it's horrific, bro. It's like it doesn't kill you, and it actually somehow benefits from sustaining your life almost indefinitely. So it makes you into a plant almost, where you just are alive indefinitely while it just drains you.
Doesn't sound so bad.
In his belly, you will find a new definition of pain and suffering as you are slowly digested over 1,000 years.
Second thought, let's pass on that, huh?
Which thing is this?
The mouth in the desert.
In
whatever it's
Return of the Jedi, the thing
of
with
the Jedi.
Jabba the Hutt.
called. Yeah, man.
Well, they say in that movie that you'll fall in there and you'll be slowly digested over a period of 1,000 years.
Exactly. Yeah, but
Sounds
they're not
awful.
playing when they say slowly digested. Not only it's not like your normal lifespan applies anymore. You're like in an internal hell. But I guess apparently, like I think something happens with your consciousness where you're like merged with the plant now and or the mouth, so you're chill, I guess. You
It
know?
sounds like Pirates of the Caribbean, where like the like where the in the Davy Jones ones where the like the crew
They're
like gets
part-
assimilated into the ship.
Yeah.
Like they're like
Yeah.
half stuck in the walls and stuff. They almost like
I haven't
become
seen that
part
movie
of
in
the
so
ship.
long, but I think I remember. Yeah.
There was a good meme making fun of Teslas. It was the Jawa's big vehicle that they drive around in the dirt in and pick
Yeah.
up C-3PO, and like that's the future of Tesla.
Oh, the big tank
Yeah.
with the treads on
It
it.
looks like a
Dude.
Cybertruck.
There's some funny ass memes of Teslas, man. I saw one where it's like this old lady standing in front of her Cybertruck, and the caption's just, "I love my Cybertruck, but I wish people would stop flipping me off while I'm driving it."
Right? Some of these people are just ridiculous,
It's like there's people putting up like bumper stickers on their cars that was like, I got this before Elon went crazy.
Yeah, please don't smash my vehicle or key my car. I have nothing
Yeah,
to do with Tesla. I just happen to own one.
Yeah, like the BLM riots. It's like black-owned business. Please don't burn us down.
Yeah.
And then they put
Yeah.
this outside.
It's so
the-
silly
the-
that people have to do that.
The Elon haters are a very interesting group of people these days. I enjoy hearing from them. You know?
Yeah, there's something special.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about Elon. I'm not really sure what side he's playing for, but yeah.
No, I think futurism might be able to help you with that.
Well, yeah, so I heard you guys talking about that earlier. I'm not really sure what you guys mean when you say futurism. Are you guys talking about like technocracy or something else?
Well, it could go that way, right? Like a technocracy is probably one way to look at it, but I guess it's more of an inevitability of like the progress of technology and how that'll eventually change humanity and humans, right? And that would extend to anything and everything you can think of, including government, your daily life. It'll paint Elon Musk in a different light, for example, because he's like the first true futurist / transhumanist to ever be given any power in the government ever. And so it's kind of a big deal if you come from, or if you're interested in that school of thought. And it also gives more context onto him, because, a lot of people don't trust him for various reasons. Like
I don't
somehow
trust
people, well, yeah. And I think one of the funniest things that I've heard, there's different levels of logic as to why you wouldn't trust him. But one of my favorite ones is people being along the lines of that he's going to be stealing from the government. It's like he has more money
Right.
than anyone's ever had in human history. And if you even wrap your head around what $1 billion can do in the first place, that would just shut that argument up really quick.
Yeah.
Because it's like anything he's ever wanted, he can have, and he has, and he will have, and he will continue to have. And so the idea of him needing to get into the government to steal is like, oh man, it's just clown shoes argument.
Yeah, I
basically.
agree with that. It's not one of the issues that I have with him. That's like people are like, oh, well, he's going to have access to your financial data. Like, he founded PayPal, right? Anybody ever used
right.
PayPal? He had your financial data already. So what?
What the fuck does he care about your financial data anyway, bro? Like,
Right. What's he going to do with the $3,000 that I possess? Like, that's
Yeah.
nothing.
Oh,
I
I saw that guy over there. He bought too much McDonald's. I don't like that. I see
Yeah.
the receipts.
Like when people say some shit like that, you always got to wait because something dumber comes out. So
Oh, yeah.
when everyone's bitching about Elon working for whatever department he's in, having access to whatever, when the same access that he's going to get, 50 interns had 2 years ago under the Biden administration, the same access department. So it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, let me ask you a question about futurism. So I came across, is Arco-futurism a thing you've heard of?
Anarcho, like the root word of anarchy, like that.
Arco-futurism?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could have anarcho anything, right? Like there's anarcho-capitalists out there, so you could make
Yes,
an
that's how I came
anarchist
across it.
spin
I
on
was-
just about anything.
I
Yeah.
was trying to dive into what you were talking about, and
Yeah.
this makes sense. And futurism is an ideology which seeks to solve basic issues like poverty through technologies that end dependency and give individuals control over their own production. It's an evolving philosophy which adapts to innovations and technologies and the needs and ideas and human needs and desires. An idea that acceptance and responsibility of personal risk must overcome supernatural or plea-based arguments for collective value structures. That makes sense?
Yes, all of it.
And there is no way we should appreciate, accept, or support the state, but rather view it as becoming more rapidly obsolete through human developments and innovation.
Right.
So can
I
one
mean,
of you
to-
guys please put that in layman's terms for the audience?
Yeah, I could, and I could actually tie it into a thing where it would make sense in terms of Elon Musk again, because for example, you know how he got in trouble for his little quote unquote Nazi salute, right?
Oh yeah, from my heart.
When he
to
came
yours.
out and he was all fired up about, and when he gave the speech that he gave, it was the main thing he was talking about was how excited he was that we were going to go to Mars, right? And that's all he cares about. And that's a good example of futurism. It's that, yes, he's been given government power and he's in the government, and you could interpret it and slice it 8 different ways of why you think he wanted that power and what do you think is going to happen. But he's a futurist. So really what's going on is that he is a math guy, he's an engineer, and he's a futurist. So he sat down at a table one day and he looked at all the possible outcomes of humanity and realized that we were at a fork in the road in terms of our timeline, so to speak, with this election. And his goal is to go to Mars, take humanity multiplanetary, and to advance the human race technologically as much as humanly possible. And so he weighed the 2 administrations that he was looking at against each other and said, this is the one that's going to let me do that. And then Trump won, and he was excited, and he went and he gave that speech, and the only thing he talked about the whole time was, we're going to get to go to Mars now. And that's because that's futurism in a nutshell, is like he doesn't care about all the other things that are going on. Like, yeah, he might have a dog in the race about like trans kids and stuff like that in schools, like things like that. Like, of course he has opinions on those things, but all of those things fall behind the rapid progress of technology and humanity towards a future state. That's what he cares about, right? So that's futurism, kind of in a sort of exemplified kind of way with what we have going on now.
The name I gave you earlier, Filippo Tommaso Marinetti, right?
Yeah, I'd never heard of him.
He is the original father of futurism. So this dude was driving his car, and he had to swerve and not hit a bicyclist, right? And he ended up in a ditch. And instead of being mad at the bicycle, getting upset with the bicyclist who wasn't paying attention, he got obsessed with technology and speed, thinking that how in the future, it would go so quick and it wouldn't matter. He was on an old bicycle and I'm on a new car.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where his obsession with the advancement of technology, we should follow technology with the advancement of human interaction, and it's up to people enhancing technology, cooperating with each other to propel technology forward. And all of that is good for us, because the car is better than the bike, and then and so on and so on. You follow technology into the future, basically.
Yeah. So like I said, I've never heard of him, but it makes sense. I guess where futurism is at these days, and again, this is not I don't have the Bible of futurism back there or anything like that, where I'm it's just my general philosophy that I've had since I was maybe 17 or 18. And I think the first person I read about that I got into through it was Ray Kurzweil, which is a name Yeah.
He told me his name too late, and I was trying to watch some stuff.
Oh, yeah, I can paraphrase. I mean, there's a big unifying concept here, and it's basically, have you guys ever heard of something called the singularity before?
That's his new book.
That's his new book. It's called The Singularity?
No, it's a joke on his old one. It's like because he's saying that the AI that works, that he's expecting to be the most powerful AI or whatever, is coming in like 2029.
Okay.
And but his last book was like Singularity is Near, and
Yeah.
then his new book is like Singularity is Nearer, as a joke, because it keeps getting faster and like his original
It was
time-
2045 roughly, right?
Yeah. So his original timeline is off. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the main thing that kind of, you know, makes futurism a thing, I guess, and transhumanism also, because they go hand in hand. Like, you know, which is transhumanism is just the idea that like because of technology and because of how far it's going to go, eventually we stop being flesh and blood human as we know it, Homo sapiens, you know, and like Neuralink is a really good example of transhuman technology where like you're embedding a chip into your head and eventually maybe we don't need to use words to communicate anymore. We're no longer the biological thing that we're born as anymore, that we evolved as. We've taken the next step, so to speak. You're a transhuman now, right? But as far as the singularity goes, like the general concept of it is basically like, if you guys are familiar with Moore's law and like exponential growth and like technology, are you guys familiar with that?
Remind me.
Basically, I think it's every 18 months processing power doubles, I think it is, of computers. And since fucking, I don't know, whenever Moore was around, like in the 60s or 70s or whatever. And for the most part, it's been true, right?
Paul,
And
Google, he's got a chart. You use the guy's name and then chart of advancement or something. It'll probably pop right up.
or yeah, if you type in Moore's law chart, Moores, I think Moore's law chart.
Yeah, I was watching a TED talk right before you got on to try to figure out who your man was. We was talking about AI and the advancement. The advancements are coming faster and faster, and you take the current chip to make the next chip, and you take that chip to make the next chip, and you do it faster and smarter and stronger and bigger math problems.
The thing is, though, is that there's breakpoints, right? Like, so you could look at any kind of development of technology as a steady process that a lot of us don't really see. Like if you think of flight, like airplanes flying, right? Like a million little parts of the machines had to be developed first, right? So lots of engineering had to be worked out, like to get there. But at some point we started to fly, right? And then the world was different the next day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's the thing that a lot of people aren't quite understanding about AI and whatnot, is that we've been experiencing steady progress our whole lives with things. And there's been some big moments, right? We've had flight, you know, the nuclear bomb is another one where, you know, you wake up one day and now we can blow up cities, you know? And since then, you know, cell phones and other things like that with computers have been a thing, like where they've been arguably pretty big milestones. But I guess the concept of the singularity is such that the next milestone, the particular milestone that will occur in the singularity, will more or less be the last milestone. It'll be the last human invention ever made, more or less, because what's going to happen when you create an AI that becomes self-aware, it's not going to just be self-aware. It's going to be stronger and more potent than the aggregate of all humans on the planet pooling their knowledge together at the same time. And what that will do is render our inventing power obsolete, basically. In other words, it'll start inventing all the technology we ever wanted to invent itself at a rate of 100,000 times faster than what we can do. So there'd be like a gigantic jump off point where technology basically just skyrockets through the roof and we just don't recognize the world anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess essentially what you're saying is, so it's a couple things. Just go back. So you're talking about the merging of man and machine. Again, just in case our audience isn't following. And then you mentioned AI and AI hitting a certain point where they will be able to create anything better and faster than humans.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, like they gave some like speeches where they were talking about AI progress in the new administration, right? Where they were doing like official talks about how AI is going to do this and it's going to do that. And like one of the things they were talking about is making like cancer vaccines, right? For example, did you guys catch that?
I watched like a 12-minute TED talk and that was it.
Right. One of the issues with cancer, like why it's so hard to treat, is because like every cancer is different, like down to like the individual personal level, like because it's your own body basically reproducing cells that are you, that your body doesn't recognize as not you, so it doesn't attack them.
They're
And then anything that
mutated.
you try to, yeah, anything that you try to attack it with also kills you. So you're just completely fucked, basically, right? So they're saying that like in order to cure something like that, you would have to like take someone's genetics down to like map them out basically and develop a specific thing to treat that specific person with that specific cancer, which is like beyond the scope of our current medicine. It's just not possible, right? But with AI, it would be, because it would be like a walk in the park for a super powerful AI to take your blood and take your genome out of that, and then to sequence the cancer and to just make something that makes it so, hey, you don't get cancer now. And that's like the tip of the iceberg, because then they could do that with, pretty much anything that has a logical process to it. AI would just figure out, like, there's like how we discover elements, right? And then we know they used to block off spots on the periodic table where there'd be new elements that we know have to exist that we haven't found yet. It would just find all of them. It would just be like, logically, this is what they would do. And it would just compute all that. So like you can apply this to anything, any field. And that's why it's the singularity, because there's no more inventing things after that.
So when you say fill in the blank on the periodic chart based on logic, because of A, B, and C, then if A and B are true, then C has to be equal or whatever the fuck, right? So it kind of reminds me of a story in World War II when they used I forget the name of the school in London that broke the Enigma code. Right? The Enigma machine was the Nazis' fucking code cracker thing, right?
I think so.
That's what they used to crack the code. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think it's called Bellamy Hall. Paul, look it up. It was the intelligence school that cracked the code. What they don't tell you, because that was in U-571, right? Remember that movie?
I remember that.
Okay. So, but the Japanese had their own set of codes to crack, and when the Americans and the Brits cracked the code, they built the machine by cracking the code. They like reverse engineered the machine that the Japanese used to write the code. So at the end of the war, when the intelligence agencies got to look at Japan's stuff, the Americans' machine was almost identical by reverse engineering, by cracking the code, reverse engineering the machine. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes. Yeah, I'm reading what he's got up here right now with the
Yeah, it credits the Polish Cipher Bureau. It says the Enigma code was initially cracked by mathematicians at the Polish Cipher Bureau, including Marian Rejewski, a bunch of other people in the early 1930s. So I'm not even going to go there. Yeah, and then it goes on to say in 1939, the Polish shared their methods and technology with the British, who then developed more advanced techniques and machinery to continue breaking the code at Bletchley Park.
Yeah, that's it. Bletchley Park.
Nice, dude. So they hooked the British up, and the British took it to the next level.
Paul, look up Purple Cipher.
So Bletchley Park, and then whoa, interesting.
Oh, that's class. That looks British,
Very fancy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jeff. What'd you ask me?
Purple Cipher. Code, yeah, Purple Cipher. That's it.
This or here?
Yeah, there it is. The encryption machine used by the Japanese.
So when the Americans built it, they basically built without ever seeing the machine. They built one just by cracking the code.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beyond the scope of my brain, but
yeah.
I could see if you got a bunch of nerds in a room together, they could figure some shit out like that. Why not?
Yeah.
Right.
But I went to I learned about some of that shit in grad school. But I went to the CIA museum or the Spy Museum in DC times. Some good shit.
Yeah, I bet that's pretty dope. I mean, from what they'll actually show you, right? Probably the real dope shit is the stuff they don't show us.
From the declassified stuff.
Shit. Like back
speaking of which, are we going to get the JFK files or what? Is that going to happen?
Where's the Epstein list?
Still where's it at, dude?
Who knows, man? Who knows? I mean, it is fascinating though, because at some point AI is going to be so dominant that we're going to need AI just to deal with other countries' AI. And even like normal folks, like you're going to see a video online in 10, 20 years and you're going to be like, is this real? And you're going to have to ask AI to tell you if that video is AI created or, it's actually legit or, so it's
Yeah,
going to be some interesting times, I think, going
for
forward.
sure. I think the main thing for me with AI is I think people just don't realize what they're seeing right now. They think this is AI and that it's just going to keep getting better. But to go back to my example of like flight or the nuclear bomb, like what we're seeing right now are all the pieces leading up to what AI is actually going to do. Like we're not there yet. It's like we're seeing the propeller being made. We're seeing the wings being made. We're seeing like the math being done and a couple of crashes happening and stuff like that. We haven't seen it start flying yet. And that's the thing is we are all going to wake up one day and it's going to be the same thing that happened when the bomb went off, right? And just suddenly we're in a nuclear world now. Suddenly we'll be in a general AI world and there's no going back at that point. And people need to, I guess, wrap their heads around that and what that means, because it's like a lot of the things I guess that you're worried about right now or that you think are going to happen. It's not that I think bad things will happen from the AI. It's just you're going to have a different, like the world's not going to be the same. You're not going to have a understanding of like the things that are problems to you today won't be problems to you anymore. You're going to have new problems. You're going to have new things that you enjoy. It's like the world will be very different, I think, and it'll change things.
I think it's going to bring a lot of positives and a lot of negatives along with it, and we can speculate, but we won't really know what those actually are until we get there. And once, like you said, the singularity hits, once that hits that certain level, everything's just going to skyrocket super fast, straight up. And
Yes.
it's going
I'm
to
glad
happen
you're on
really
here.
rapidly. Go ahead.
So I'm glad you're on here, Rob, because two guests ago, our friend Steve was on, and I need I don't understand AI. AI in my mind is fucking Skynet. That's the peak of AI. That's what I worry about when I think about AI. I don't know nothing about it.
Yeah.
That's the bad version.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
AI
the-
becomes
Skynet.
a new species, and it just wants to kill us because
here's the thing with that, right? Like, so, it's really hard to debate that because we really don't know. It's going to be a big game. It's a big dice roll for humanity. Like that's absolutely possible that it goes that route. I guess I can only speak personally. Like my personal comfort zone with that thought is that when we say things like that, because it always involves some sort of like logical fallacy, right? Where it's like we tell the AI that we want it to solve all of our problems. And then it like does a calculation and it says, we're our own biggest problem. Therefore, I should kill all of you.
My logic is undeniable.
And so the comfort zone for me around that and the issue with that logic is the fact that it's going to be way smarter than us. It's not going to misinterpret what we have to say. That's the thing. So it would have to be making an independent decision where it was along the lines of like, hey, I'm top dog now, and for some reason I require the physical realm. I need more processing power, so I need to turn humanity into a bunch of slaves. But like realistically, robots are going to be better workers than humans anyway, by orders of magnitude. So it wouldn't make any sense to enslave us. Biological energy offers absolutely nothing to them really that they can't get from nuclear power plants. So it's like I think if anything they'll make nuclear power plants and a bunch of robots to work for them, and then we'll just be hanging out. And it's like if at worst it tolerates us, it'll still be chill.
Yeah, right.
Wishful
Yeah.
thinking. I agree that enslavement would make absolutely zero sense. If
Yeah.
AI does go rogue and it's a bad kind of rogue, we're screwed. We're probably all going to get wiped out.
For sure.
Hopefully, obviously, that doesn't happen. But I think when people like watch movies like Terminator and things like that, right, and like they're super entertaining, but they're not very realistic, right? Because
Yeah,
if
I'm
you
just
have
using it as an example for.
no, I know. I
don't
wasn't
know.
even going to go the Skynet route. I was going to go like more like robots. So we make these robots, these AI robots, right? They don't make mistakes, like you mentioned. They don't miss. So if there's ever like a war between robots and humans, we are in deep shit. That robot will fire one shot and hit you right between the eyes and not even look at you. There's
Yeah.
no like there's
I mean,
no.
we've been in deep shit since nuclear bombs, though, haven't we? You
That's
know,
fair. That's fair.
it's the same problem. Like we've been completely obsolete as a warfare like item for 70, 80 years now. You know what I mean? Like humans we're just humoring each other when we get into these like Ukraine, Russia. It's a joke. Like if Russia wanted to, they could nuke Ukraine back to the fucking Stone Age in like a day. They're just doing it because it's not like it would cause too much problems with the global politics. It would be bad for the
Environment.
It's
planet,
also
the
completely
environment.
inhumane, but yeah.
It would be inhumane. Well, I mean, I don't know that, killing hundreds of thousands of them in trenches is humane either. But, I think if I had the choice, I'd rather be vaporized by a bomb than endure all that. But that's just me.
As people, as a species, we're way used to lining up and charging at each other with sticks.
Yeah.
And that being acceptable for warfare as opposed to like your state just nuked a whole nother state. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that the people will even be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been obsolete for a while, for our entire lifetimes, for all of our lifetimes, we've been completely obsolete. We've been passengers in the idea of warfare for a very long time. We don't matter when it comes to waging war anymore. So we're kind of just at the mercy of these large governments and whatever they choose to do with their power. And that's not going to change when AI gets there. It'll just be a different thing that has that power over us.
Yeah.
Until they find a little fucking stop nuclear button.
Yeah. I mean, what would a stop nuclear button?
I don't know. Think like a way to the EMP the missile. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. Yeah, because again, that would tie into AI too, and more specifically like quantum computing, where because they're all protected by all these codes, and like even if you look at Bitcoin, like blockchain technology, like the money is in the fact that it's like one of the most secure mathematical algorithms I think like ever.
Yeah, it's
I
encrypted.
think. Yeah, right. And like that's the whole point is like the blockchain technology is like so secure that it's like unbelievable, But the thing is that quantum computing will get to a point where it just shreds through that shit. And like so if quantum computing ever gets to the point where it's usable by like a government, and it will probably, that potentially they could just dig through your nuclear codes and just render them obsolete, just useless, and then nuke you.
Well, again,
So-
AI will do that. Once AI hits a certain point, right? It will do that automatically.
Yeah.
like can a computer come up? Can an AI come up with a program that it can't break the encryption of? Can AI be? You know what I'm trying to say? Like it would have to be like two separate AIs. Like it'd be the American AI trying to crack the Chinese AI's code and vice versa.
Yeah.
Well,
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't write a code. It's like trying to design your own maze. Like the way out because you just designed the fucking maze.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated, I think, because there's like adjacent technologies that are going on that I'm not really familiar with. And like to go back to quantum computing, like I don't know shit about quantum computing. I just know what I've read at a surface level, and I know that it's like an order of magnitude of computing power beyond what we have. Like that's in the ballpark of like 100,000 times greater than our greatest computers, something like that. In fact, I read something so weird, dude, and I don't remember the words. I'm probably going to butcher this, but I think they said that quantum computing would either that it would prove time travel or that it would prove the multiverse. And the answer was, the reason why was because of the amount of computing power that a quantum computer would be capable of was more than all of the particles in the universe. And therefore, for it to have more computing power than the particles in the entire universe, it would have to mean that it's drawing the particles it's using from another universe, which would then prove the multiverse, which is like, that's a mind fuck, right? Because, you're harnessing these quantum things, and it's like, it's already like, if you get into quantum physics, it's already fucking weird what's going on with like superposition and shit like that. And then for them to say something like that, like, hey, if this stuff all actually works, it's not possible within our universe, but we're seeing it right in front of us. So that's a bit of it's like a fallacy, so that's a whole other thing. But that kind of computing power could for sure break through whatever security systems you came up with. Right. So.
Sure. And like you said, it may answer a lot of questions that we've been unable to previously. There's obviously theories and speculation and accepted theories, but, that might prove one way or the other. hey, we live in a multiverse or whatever it is, you know.
That'd be a trip for me. I don't know about you guys, but I've always been cool with one universe. If we get into multiverses,
Yeah,
I'm a little.
I
That
don't
shit
know.
I
makes me
think the
uncomfortable.
multiverse theory is completely legit. I don't really know a lot about it. I haven't read into it, but it seems completely reasonable to assume that that's a thing, that there's, you know, separate universes, and there's, you know, universes within universes, so to speak.
Like,
I
when you
get. There would have to be, I guess. Yeah.
jumping between universes. Remember the movie Time Cop? Remember how Time
Yeah.
Cop opens and there's a dude stealing Civil War gold and then it fucks up the timeline in the
Yeah, and
future?
he comes out, he has a machine gun because he's able to
Yeah.
time travel. Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't, like, I don't, my brain always goes to like how to take advantage of like laws and shit. Like, I have like a criminal mind that I can't act on.
Well, the
Like,
CIA,
I just go fucking get, you know, steal a bunch of gold or do some fucked up shit because I can just jump back to my timeline and shit. Like, they're gonna have timeline cops.
so the
Yeah.
CIA has had a couple programs, and one of them is like MK Ultra, where they, you know, test psychics
Acid.
and things like that. You know, they also use drugs and experimental things like that. At least from what we know about MK Ultra, because most of it's still classified. At least as far as I know. But anyway, the CIA had a program where they enlisted remote viewers, right? These are psychics that are able to see things, right? Now this sounds crazy. But you know, you can look into it if you want, but it sounds completely wild. So these people, these psychics, are able to say see anywhere in the world, right? They're actually able to almost like astral project themselves. Like if you've ever seen Doctor Strange, where his
Mhm.
spiritual self comes out of his physical body. So like some of these remote viewers that are now retired from the CIA, again, allegedly, have claimed to be able to visit the moon, right?
Yeah.
And things like that. And somehow they're capable of going wherever they want within this universe, but it doesn't stop there. Some of them are also capable of traveling forward and backwards in time. Not physically, like in the sense of Time Cop, but in the sense of like astral projection. So that you're there, but you're not physically there. I don't know if it's true or not, but if the CIA invested a lot of time and money in it, it's probably not entirely untrue.
There actually, there was 2 recent Rogan podcasts actually that I watched that cover that kind of directly. Like the most recent one was this. I think she's a neurologist or a neuroscientist or some combination of the neuro words, right? And she's coming out with she has a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes, and she's coming out with a documentary, something along the lines of Telepathy Tapes, where they study nonverbal autistic kids. And
My wife and I were just listening to the guy whose daughter is like the main part of the tapes.
yeah. So that's she was like, I just got done listening to that, and it's like they're like at the point, at least these scientists, they're convinced that they've seen enough evidence to make a documentary where all of them, these Harvard trained scientists, are basically like, there's a 0% chance that they're not communicating with their minds. So
Telepathy Tapes.
Go ahead, continue.
I don't
Rob.
remember what the woman's name is, but I just listened to it. It was fascinating. And she was saying, like, you know, obviously they started off using the scientific method where they're trying to, like, you know, prove it in a controlled setting. They're like taking the kid in the other room. They're taking the mother into a different room. They're separating them. They're showing the mother like pictures of like giraffes or something like that. And then the kid in the other room is like, it's a giraffe.
Yeah.
It's shit like that, you know? And apparently like they were like, it gets really crazy where they start talking about, since they have started making her podcast, the Telepathy Tapes or whatever, I guess apparently like a lot of these nonverbal kids found out about the podcast. And as a result of that, they started trying to find each other, and they're like communicating with each other now. And I guess in like different cities, they have like these like telepathy meetups that they call the Hill, where they all get together and just mind link. And like apparently they can shoot thoughts into people that they're very connected with, not just anybody, but like and I think the example she gave was like, it wouldn't be like a word, like the telepathy wouldn't be a word where like you wouldn't hear the word Thanksgiving in your head. Instead, you would get the smell of turkey and like have very specific memories to you of spending time with your family on Thanksgiving and like watching football and like things unique to Thanksgiving. It would like all overwhelm you all at once, and you would just know this thing is communicating Thanksgiving to me. And like that was the example they gave, and it's kind of trippy.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen The Abyss?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend watching it if you haven't seen it. It's an old deep sea movie from back in the 80s. It's James Cameron. Ed Harris is in it. Anyway,
Mary Louise Masterson.
Oh, you know what? I've seen part of it.
There's a bunch of people in it.
so
yeah.
it's kind of a slow burn. And again, I'm not sure I find it to be entertaining nowadays, but I really love the ending. And the ending is spoiler alert. Basically, there's ETs that are trying to help humanity, and they're showing the humans that survive, Ed Harris or whatever, at the end, what's going to happen. And and instead of actually saying anything, speaking to him telepathically, they just show him images, like you kind of said, war-torn images, bombs exploding, cities destroyed, and it's enough to get the idea.
That's like in The Fifth Element when she learns all about the future, everything real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you guys ever see Arrival?
Yes, great movie.
Where they teach her the language, and just the act of learning the language makes her time travel because the
Yes.
language is like a time language.
Yeah.
So then she starts to
awesome.
like experience her entire life in like random parts of her timeline.
Yes, and she actually already knows what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big thing at the end of the film. Sorry,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, my bad.
Yeah, that's all right.
Good movie,
'Cause people
though, definitely
Anybody
watch it.
watching is absolutely cooked on spoilers at this point. Whatever
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Maybe don't
Yeah.
watch us if you're trying to avoid spoilers. We
If you haven't seen movies that are 20 years old, don't watch this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But have you guys seen Stranger Things?
of
No.
course. Great
So-
show. You haven't? Damn.
Stranger
That's
Things
not-
is great.
Wait, I gotta ask you first. Why haven't you seen it? So what's going on with you, dude? It's just
That's
not your cup
not-
of tea, or what?
That's not really my cup of tea.
Yeah, he's not a
Sci-
not a
sci-fi
sci-fi guy.
80s throwbacks, dude. Dude, 80s is your
I-
shit, dude. You're from the 80s.
I know. It's just not my.
So
my thing.
Jeffrey, just in case you ever do plan on maybe watching it, so they use Dungeons and Dragons to tell the story. The show starts in like 1982, so it takes place during the 80s. So there's a lot of like
Yeah, I'm
nostalgic
sure
stuff.
it's good. I
It's
just
got like
never,
Goonies vibes, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I tried to get into it the one time. I just wasn't in the mindset to get into it.
Yeah.
I just haven't gone back.
So the reason I bring it up is because I remember reading a while back or watching an interview with the creators of the show, and they were inspired by MK Ultra, again, CIA project. You can
Oh yeah, I could see that. That
yeah,
makes
anybody
sense.
who doesn't look, just Google it. And they were also inspired by Project Montauk, which was a project that was run up in upstate New York that dealt with psychics, just like 11 in the show. So yeah, if anybody's interested in that, or maybe doesn't, quite get the gist of what we're saying, MK Ultra, Project Montauk, remote viewing, you can look this stuff up, and these are government programs. So fascinating stuff.
I did just finish The Agency. I watched that. That was pretty good.
What's that about?
What's that?
It's a what channel is it on? It's on Apple, maybe Apple or Paramount. It's about the London CIA agency. So it's like a drama about spies.
Oh, so it's basically England's
Spies.
version of the CIA,
Or
the
England's
FBI.
version of James Bond. Oh wait.
or
No, it's the American.
wait, that's authentic.
Wait a second.
The no, James Greer. Fucking Pretty Woman is in it. Richard Gere.
Oh,
Wait, that's you said
God.
okay.
how old is Richard? He's
I
got
was
to be
saying
like
Julia
90.
Roberts when you said Pretty Woman, but I guess Richard Gere is the other half of Pretty Woman. So
It's about the CIA. The guys will all work. They're CIA who work out of the London CIA fucking shit. And it's the spy game.
Oh, it's
But-
is
yeah.
Fassbender's in it?
Michael
Well-
Fassbender,
Yeah, is this Michael
Yeah.
Fassbender?
dude's a
Well-
Chad.
London is a very important intelligence city.
Yeah.
London.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Yeah, Richard Gere, Michael Fassbender. I don't
Yeah.
know any of
Yeah.
these.
Those are some good actors, man.
You like that kind of
It's a movie or a show?
show.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 episodes so far.
And it leaves you open for another season.
I'm into it.
It's definitely a good show.
Well, if anybody wants
Yeah,
to
I-
watch it, the Agency.
I have
Came
to
out
take a
last
gander.
year.
Showtime. That's what it is. Showtime and Paramount.
Yeah, Paramount.
Yeah, I'm about to watch that new Daredevil show this week.
Oh, I heard bad stuff.
Too.
All right, never mind.
Hey, watch it. Maybe it's good. I don't know, but I heard bad stuff. I mean, anything pretty much that's MCU nowadays, I am really skeptical about, which is a shame because I grew up being a comic book nerd. You know.
Right, I didn't think about that because it was originally, you know how like Marvel had that issue where like, you know, they had the MCU, but then like Spider-Man was owned by Sony, so like they were doing their own thing.
Yeah,
Like
X-Men
Daredevil
owned
was
by
one of those
Fox.
situations because it was on Netflix and it was hyper, it was like super fucking violent and shit. Like the scene where like the Punisher breaks out of jail in that show in the first two seasons. Have you guys ever seen the Netflix Daredevil?
I watched some of the beginning, some of the first episodes.
Bro, do yourself a favor, man. Just go on YouTube at one point and watch the scene where the Punisher breaks out of jail. It is next level savage. Like it's like level 10 savagery. And there's no way Disney's allowing that shit in their show. So the show's probably cooked now too. I didn't think about that. Disney just ruins everything, man.
Well, there was a Punisher show
They
that
have
came
to
out
be
a couple
stopped.
years ago, and I heard that was good.
Yeah, that's a spinoff of the Daredevil show. It's got the same guy. It's
Oh,
the hell's that guy's name, dude? He's Shane in The Walking Dead. He's
We're
like
about to
super
find
aggressive
out.
in every show he's in. He's just always mad and hitting people. You know?
He's
John
in We Own-
Bernthal.
Yeah, John
Yeah,
Barrett.
that guy.
He's in
Yeah.
We Own This City. He plays the cop.
Yeah, he's probably really mad in that, hitting people.
Well, if you do, Paul, do We Own This City. It's based.
Look at that. You see?
We talked about it briefly last episode as we mentioned The Wire. It's about the gun task force unit in Baltimore. It's based on a true story. They're crooked as fuck, and basically the crooked cops based on a true story. But John Barenthal plays like the main dude. Wayne Jenkins is off the chain.
Yeah, he's usually a savage. Like I'm telling you, you got to see this shit from Daredevil, and then tell me if you think they could put that in a Disney show because I don't think so. That's probably why that show is going to be ass now.
So there are some parameters with Disney and the MCU, right? A good example is The Punisher. Another good example is Deadpool, right? And people are like, "Oh, they're going to put Deadpool in the MCU." No, they're not. And because one of two things is going to happen, right? So either you make the MCU complete adult oriented, right, where kids don't watch it, and they're never going to do that because it'll cost them a fortune. You know, in profit margin, they want, you know, kids to be able to attend. They don't want to make it rated R, right? So if you don't go that route and you try to incorporate the Punisher, Deadpool, things like that, or people like characters like that into the MCU, you're going to ruin them because they are very adult themed characters. Deadpool is rated R. Punisher is brutal. You know, he shoots people down in the open street. I mean, he's a brutal vigilante. So you kind of have to have like these separate like spin-offs, you know. They're about to try to interject or put X-Men into the MCU. You're going to run into the same issue with Wolverine. Yeah, the old Wolverine movies and stuff, there's no blood. He stabs people, but you know, we don't like see anything. But, you know, now that they've gone, you know, with Logan and now Deadpool and Wolverine, and we've got to see like Wolverine actually massacring people on screen, I think for a lot of fans, it's going to be really hard to go back to like the old Bryan Singer film.
There's no turning back now.
Yeah, we're past the point of no return, I think.
We got that dopamine hit of watching him just carve people up, and we're just like, yeah, dude, I don't want to see pussy Wolverine anymore, dude. I want that Wolverine.
Basically, you know, so I think it'll alienate a lot of fans, probably myself, unfortunately, but...
I'm in the same boat with you, I think, on that one. You know, because like, I mean, what was the movie where he's like old and he's got a daughter? When that was Logan. The one that like did Logan.
Oh, the opening scene in that movie's brutal,
dude, and that popped off. Like that was one of the most popular movies they ever made, and like everybody was like talking about it, and it's like I was definitely in there with that too.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
I don't know how you go back. You didn't see that.
Just watch the opening scene and you'll understand everything.
Yeah, you don't have to see the whole thing of any of this stuff. Just watch the violent parts, dude. You're good.
I pull off Marvel early.
There's one scene where he literally stabs the dude like underneath his chin or whatever, and the claws come out. The dude's blood shoots everywhere. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to put that in an MCU film.
Yeah, they took the gloves off, man. They were like, "This is the real deal now. We're not playing."
James
anymore.
Mangold, I think, directed that.
Yeah, I just want to go on record and say that Canon Wolverine's supposed to be 5'6". You know.
Did you see Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
they,
yeah.
they do make fun of that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he gets off the chair and he's like, "Yo, what's up, dude?"
Oh, you're
Yeah,
comic
but
book accurate, Wolverine. Never mind.
I'm gonna need you to come with me.
Who's asking?
Oh, look at this little Harry Lou Retton. Did you stick the landing, little guy?
yeah, but he's also supposed to be, I think, 450 pounds too. So he's 5'6" and 450 pounds because of the adamantium.
Yeah,
so,
but adamantium's super lightweight. So I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. That's just what it says on his stats. If you pull up Wolverine on like Wikipedia or something, it'll give you his like height and weight in canon Wolverine height and weight. It'll tell you. It's like, I don't know. Last time I looked at it, it was like 350 or 450 pounds or something like that.
Maybe there's a discrepancy in the comic book because you can't say that adamantium's like this super lightweight alloy and then say that Wolverine weighs 400 something pounds.
Well, think about it this way, right? He at a baseline, he probably weighs like 180 pounds. And then if you coat his entire skeleton in metal, even if it's aluminum, you're adding like another 50 to 60, 70 pounds to him. And then to move that, his body then has to compensate by generating an extreme muscle mass, which adds another 100 pounds, right? So I don't know. There's some mental gymnastics you could do, right? To get to that part where you're like, yeah, he's fucking enormous, even though he's 5'6".
We're worried about how
he's
much.
basically like Mike is right now.
The little tank that he is.
And, yeah, I was talking to him the other day. He's like, I'm 210 right now. I'm like, yeah, that's not good, dude. Like, chill.
Yeah, if we're arguing about how much antimanium could possibly weigh, there's a lot of other things in the universe that we're letting slide in the MCU to worry about.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. We're just, whatever. Just
300 pounds. There you go.
But
He's
AI
300
says
pounds.
300 pounds with the skeleton, and that the adamantium adds 105 pounds to his weight.
Yeah, there you go. So, like, imagine getting a 5'6", 300-pound metal dude chucked at you. That would suck, right?
Hell, it would probably.
Oh,
kill
he's
you.
5'3"? What the fuck? Damn.
Yeah, it'd probably kill you.
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, he would definitely kill you, especially with how angry he is and all the claws and stuff. There's a lot of ways he'd kill you.
At a certain point, Hugh Jackman just started getting too old, and I just wasn't feeling the young Wolverine anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've been trying to recast him. It's just that the fan base, and myself included, really love Hugh Jackman, what he's done with the character. He seems to understand the character. He seems to have like a passion for playing the character, and he's done a fantastic job. And I would argue that like the fact that Hugh Jackman's like 6 foot something is actually better because, like you said,
Right.
if you use like the comic book accurate one, kind
People are
of.
gonna be upset.
Yeah, and it kind of takes away from like his intimidating presence, Yeah,
Yeah.
he is fierce, and definitely don't fuck with him. But yeah, if you're like looking down at him, you might,
Yeah.
Frodo
Which
Baggins, chill out, man.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I guess I see that, right? And on the other hand, I feel like it's also an opportunity to just make him earn the respect through just utter brutality, right? Because that's how it happened. Like if you go to Canon Wolverine, it was like everybody was looking at him like that. They were like, "Oh, look at this little fella here. You're adorable, bro. Like leave me alone."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "I'm going to literally tear you apart with my bare hands, and then if you do anything to me, my body parts grow back. So
Yeah.
good luck with that."
Let's go, bub.
And then at some point people were like, "Okay, just stay the fuck away from me, dude." So it's like that whole like fallacy behind him is actually kind of part of, like, I don't know. I always thought it was cool, but I'm also a short guy myself, so I'm a little biased.
Yeah, no, it's accurate. I don't want to
Yeah.
get into the whole thing, but it does remind me in some cases of your brother. When we were younger, we used to get into scraps, fights, skirmishes, or whatever. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody mess with your brother just because of his height, only to just watch your brother just don't do that, bro. Just to watch your brother just decimate him.
Don't do that, dude. It's a bad idea.
do that, man.
He's really angry.
I know he's short, but it's a bad idea.
Hey, so what hospital are you going to? I'll meet you and sign you on your buddy's cast.
Yeah. So, it's part of the character, I guess. It's almost like, well, actually, I don't even want to go there. I was going to say it's kind of like when they make a white character a black actor and vice versa, but it's nothing like that.
No, they've been
though.
doing that a lot lately. Sometimes with good
yeah.
results, most of the time.
What was it? Little Mermaid or something like that? I remember everybody was upset about that one.
Yeah, that was
That shit's-
one example.
That was kind of funny, though, honestly, right?
Did you guys? I don't know if you guys are Harry Potter fans, but there's some real speculation now in the Harry Potter show that's about to come out on HBO, which should by all means be an absolute smash. Like this show should break records. It should be #1 in the world. And how do they start this train ride out.
They put a girl in it and made it gay.
Not exactly. They made Snape black. Not yet, but it looks like they're finalizing talks to make Snape a black guy. And if you're asking me, I'm just going to say that's fucking racist.
I don't know that universe, so I couldn't tell you.
I love the Harry Potter franchise.
I'm into it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of crazy because we already have a lot of visual representation of Snape. Like we've seen Snape. There's no reason for that, I guess.
And I never read the books, but they describe him numerous times as being pale, right? Like J.K. Rowling actually made a sketch of him, and yeah, he's pale. So
yeah. You know what? I feel like it just doesn't make any sense, because this is a conversation that comes up now with like I guess DEI is the popular way to put it these days, but it's been like a 20 or 30-year-old conversation now, right? Where everyone's been talking about them doing stuff like this. And it's like, I don't know. I don't really understand the need to do it because there's cool black characters already. Like Blade is arguably one of the coolest MCU characters ever. And nobody's asking for a white Blade, right?
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Or Black Panther, for that matter. Could you imagine if they race swapped Black Panther?
Black Panther starring Tom Cruise.
Right. And I don't want Black Panther race swapped. He's got to be black. I mean, that's... I just don't understand, why it's okay to do it to one side, but not the other. Because that's the definition of racism to me, at least in this context. And the crazy thing is that the Harry Potter universe is already super diverse. If you've watched any of the Harry Potter movies or... There are tons of black characters. There's Asian
My dude,
characters.
Kingsley Shacklebolt, bro.
You may not like him, Minister, but you can't deny Dumbledore's got style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, why would you... I just don't... I mean, I understand, but it doesn't make sense, so I don't understand. Anyway.
I missed the Harry Potter train, too. This is not a good episode for me in movies.
Yeah, my bad. I do think it is funny that the name she gave to her black character is Kingsley Shacklebolt though. Dude, she gave him a fucking the blackest name you could possibly have, basically.
Well, there's Albus, Wulfric, blah blah blah, Dumbledore.
Brian,
he has 6
Dumbledore.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's some super white shit too. So.
Yeah, it is.
Arguably, it's also a Latino thing too, though, because Latinos usually have 50 names as well. So it could go any way.
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair. It sounds like some royalty shit to me when I hear people with multiple names like that, Jeffrey Harrison Senior, the 5th or whatever it is.
I've been mad at my parents my whole life because instead of just tagging me with Junior, they gave me the 2nd, dude. It says it on my birth certificate. I got the Roman numerals. I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? What's going on? What was the point?
Well, you sound like royalty.
Yeah, there it.
The Duke of Flanders behind my name or something.
The Duke of Flanders.
The Duke of Carlton Hill coming at you.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. I was listening to what is it? Your most recent podcast where you guys had a guy on from the left who was what's his name?
Greg Jolly. Good dude.
You guys had a good conversation with him. It didn't seem like you guys got into any contentious territory or anything like that. It was just kind of he has his views, you have your views, and then you guys kind of found the middle ground where you guys synced up and just went from there, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak for Jeff. I disagree on some topics with Greg, and that's cool. But it was the first episode we had him on. Wanted him to feel comfortable. We want everybody to feel comfortable, like always. We also want you to speak your mind, and if we disagree, that's okay. So, at least in my regard, I was trying to focus more on things that we did agree on, and in the future we have him back on a couple times. Maybe I'm sure we will have some discussions where we disagree, and that's okay.
No, that's great though, because it's rare, because I was thinking, and I actually got to thank Jeff because you always got my mom's back on Facebook, dude. Anytime any of these political things get out of control, because I'm not really a Facebook guy or social media or anything like that, but every once in a while someone will be like, hey, you have to read what this person has said now. I'm like, really? Do I? And then I'll go look. And it'll be like, wow, that's some of the dumbest shit I've ever read in my life. And there's people liking it and believing it and just be like, hey, can you just dunk this person real quick for me or something like that? And be like, all right, I'll type one thing and then I'm out of here, never again. But it's interesting to poke your head in. It's kind of almost feel like when it comes to social media politics now, it's almost like when the entire house is on fire, but you're in the other room that's not on fire, and then like I'll look in and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's not good, and then close the door
Don't
again.
go in there.
Yeah. Fuck that, dude. It's crazy, and you're just in that world, bro. Like you just live in there, dude. Like I'm seeing you all the time, or I'm hearing from my mom, I guess, at least, that like you've got a lot of good stuff to say over there, and you're just like debating people all the time there, or what's up with that?
I post the articles that I read, and I post a lot of the shit that I watch. Like I'm doing it anyway, and because I have this big ass phone, I have the Fold.
Oh yeah.
So like I use it for it's basically a laptop, and I use it for Kindle. So like if I get a message or something, or I come across a good video, and I'll just share it. And if people want to talk shit, then they talk shit. And there's other times I got ADD. I'm fucking bored, and I live in Philadelphia, and all my friends are back in Flanders or in fucking Las Vegas, like this guy, or in Strasbourg.
Vegas, man.
That like I crave some social interaction. So if it takes me talking shit for someone to respond, then sometimes I'm a dick. Sometimes I'm nice. Sometimes I'm like, hey, just like check this out. But just the way social media works is people respond to memes because it takes no concentration. You don't have to you read it for 2 seconds and that's it. You don't have to click on the article and pay attention or watch the video, which is what most people talk is in sound bites, which is why I prefer long form conversation, because if you can't talk about something for more than 5 minutes, it's because you only know the fucking sound bites.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think Greg mentioned it on our last episode too. I think it's really important for us to have discussions, like especially if you disagree on something. Like, I've said this numerous times on numerous episodes here. We should talk. Explain your side. Let me try to understand it. And then, I'll explain my side. And I would ask the same courtesy of you. Try to understand where I'm coming from. And hopefully we can, I think if more people just talk instead of, argue, we'll find that we all have a whole lot more in common than not,
Yeah, that's why I'm always like, especially as I hate typing shit out. I'm not one of those people who's good at getting my thoughts out on paper.
Yeah.
And especially because I have ADD and I'm probably, again, like half on the spectrum, is I just type out my thought. It's thought by thought by thought. It's not all the English terms that make a paragraph flow properly. You know what I mean? I'm just answering your questions in a sentence. And if you have a problem with what I say, cool. I understand that I'm not explaining it well on Facebook. This isn't where I'm best at. But here's where I got the information from. Here is the man giving the speech. Here's the book. Here's the article. Here's whatever. So you look at it and then tell me what you think. Instead of trying to tell me I'm wrong, I already know that I could be wrong. But here's the expert. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? That actually makes me think of something that has bothered me recently, which is like, you say something like that, right? But the problem is I feel like two people are hearing different things from the same source these days. And it doesn't matter what you say or do. People like to give you an example, right? Like there was a Trump speech a while ago, and I've got like friends that are convinced that he's going to like run for a third term and really try to become a 3-term president. Right. And so he was giving a speech. It was like one of the first ones he did after he got elected. And he made a joke out of it where he was just like, I'm here for the 2 terms or whatever. And it's like, maybe a third, who knows? And then he paused for a second and he looked out and he was like, that was a joke. And he goes, all the fake news back there probably picked that up and like they're going to run with it and you'll see it in the print and all this. And to me, I looked at that and it was so benign. I was just like, he's a funny guy. He has like stand-up comedian energy. He makes people laugh. He's good at talking to the public. And like, I didn't think anything of it after that. I went back to the content of his speech and that was it. And it was like, in the fact that he called out the media, I was like, there's no way that they try to make a play with this, even because he blatantly just said it was a joke to them. And it's like, then a couple days later, I had a family member who was, I guess, seeing that and had said something along the lines of like, that, like they were taking it seriously, basically like, oh, can you believe that this is happening? Right. And I was just thinking to myself, it's like, wow, like I didn't even hear it like that. Like to me, it was so clear that it wasn't that, but there's other people who are hearing it the other way and are really like, so we're listening to the same shit, but we're getting a completely different response to it. Like someone really believed that, Yeah,
I heard Dave Smith say this first, but he even says that he got it from somebody else. And basically it's the left doesn't take Trump seriously, but they take him literally. and the
Yeah,
Reds take him literally, but they take him seriously.
I think that's a really good point and pretty accurate too. If you just look at the linguistics involved,
but not the shit that he does.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that's fair.
It's a good way to explain it. They take a lot of his stuff out of context. I mean, he said something about the auto industry. I think it was like about a year ago now, and he said something about like he was talking about like the finances and the economy of the auto industry in the U.S. And he's like, "Oh, it's going to be Armageddon or something like that, or it's going to be an apocalypse or a bloodbath." That's what he said.
Oh yeah.
So and then what does the news run with? Oh, Trump is promoting bloodbath, and he said everything's gonna like he's promoting violence. Like he was talking about the fucking car industry. Did you listen to the speech?
Yeah,
It's like
the problem is that it like I said, like it hits people completely differently. Like the three of us will listen to that. We'll listen to the whole thing. We'll get the context, and we'll be like, we'll get good information out of it that you can now use to form your opinions on things. And other people have an instantaneous emotional response to it, and it's over. There's no going past that point.
And then the conversation ends up being, no, that's not what he said. That's not what he meant. That's not what it's like, as opposed to actually getting into the depth of the conversation.
Right.
Yeah. So you try to have a conversation and you don't have a conversation.
You have it because it turns into that stupid thing. And that's almost like it's by design. But
and to be fair too, this used to be me. A lot of people don't watch the speech, listen to it, nothing at all. Right? They just read the headline. And it says, "Oh, Trump calls for violence," refers to a bloodbath. So, a couple of years ago, I would have been like, "Oh, yep, Trump's calling for violence." It would have been like, and you would have been like, "Paul, did you actually listen to it?" No, I read about it. I didn't really read about it. I just read the headline.
The perfect example is what he said in Charleston about the two, it was perfectly good people on both sides.
Oh yeah. That shit's funny.
If you listen to the next 3 lines of that conversation, he completely defines on what he's talking about. But they never show you the rest of that. It's just the clip, and the clip is what runs, and the clip is what people remember.
And that's going to be the headline in the article, and that's what most people read.
And did you look at the whole thing? Well, no, I saw what he said, and that's enough. Well, you didn't see all of it. You know what I mean? And then, but they won't even. It's enough to not even bother looking. Because because if you end up being wrong, then you got that on you, and it's easier to just not be wrong if you don't ever check.
Yeah, dude, I wish there was like a guidebook for I don't know, for like a guidebook or like an entry level way of like guiding the older generation away from legacy media and towards independent media. There's no like I wish there was some kind of like for a lot of people it's Joe Rogan, right? Like you start there, and like I've been listening to him since I was like, I don't know. It's been like since he was like, 2008 or 2009, I started listening to Joe Rogan because I was into UFC already. And he was the commentator, and I found out the UFC commentator had a podcast, and I was like, so I started listening in like episode like 150 or some shit like that, and that was like the entry for me into like independent media. And I'm sure a lot of people, because it's the most popular podcast ever. Right. And I wish there was something like that you could just take and throw at like the older demographic and be like, hey, this stuff is all way more informative than this bullshit you've been listening to and that you continue to listen to, and like turn your fucking TV off of the news and try it, just try it, and then I think the conversations and the shit would change like big time, but it's so difficult to get people out of their habits, and it's not just them either. You have on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the young people on college campuses whose professors have been just spewing out critical race theory and like all kinds of like gender nonsense and stuff like that, and free Palestine and whatever you can get your hands on, basically, that they're just like going nuts about now, and that they're utterly convinced is like fact and reality, and there's no talking to them.
I think the young people are smarter than we actually give them credit for, and not all
Some
of them. Not all of them.
Yeah.
But I actually work with a lot of young people.
Them, yeah.
Well, I work with a lot of young people, and some of them are completely brainwashed, programmed, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But a lot of them, at least the ones that I work with, they see right through this shit. And they're not Trump supporters, they're not Harris supporters. They're just independent, normal people, and they see through a lot of this. So,
could I ask you a question about those people?
Sure.
What are they typically, male or female or both?
Most of them are male, but there's a couple.
Which Paul's right. Yeah, but yeah, that poll's correct, right? Because like that's what they say the demographic is right now is that young males are like they're getting into independent media and they're getting into this and they're voting the opposite way that young females are voting. And on the other end of the spectrum, the young females are sliding so hard to the left right now because of abortion mostly that it's like we may never get them back basically.
Yeah, another
So
great
there's a
example.
huge divide in young people right now.
Yeah, it's another great example. We talked to Greg about it on the last episode, where Greg had a friend who said that, oh, well, he's trying to take away abortion rights. No, he's not. That's the headline they ran with, that he's trying to ban it and all that, but none of that's actually true. So, yeah, I think it's just the media just, manipulating stories, taking things out of context, to try to manipulate the few followers that they have left. It's mostly the boomer generation, into believing whatever it is that they want them to believe, and like you said earlier, I'm sorry, Mom. I mean, she doesn't watch anyway, but I told my mom last week, take your television, throw that fucking thing in the trash.
Yeah, man.
It's
true though. It's like, those things are useless,
Yeah.
You can watch your gossip shows on it, but that's about it, man. I would not be watching the news.
Well, my mom watches The View on the daily, if that's any, that's any consolation.
Is she okay, dude?
she's heavily programmed, man. Sorry, Mom.
The View
Again,
is
I love
wild,
you.
bro.
I found it a lot easier and more beneficial for me. Again, this is me and how I got my shit together. Is I started following individual people on Instagram or Facebook or especially YouTube, and I would listen to all their interviews, or I wouldn't just like, okay, you're on Fox and I heard you on Fox, or I watch whatever, Rachel Maddow or even as like the Channel 2 news at 7. Instead of getting my news from one source, I just started following people, and then they had a conversation with somebody who said something I liked, and I started following them. You know what I mean? So instead of looking at what is shown to me by the people who get paid to have me see their shit, I was seeking out my own knowledge and my own, and people that, especially people who I think can explain things easy to me, are the people I tend to follow the most. And that's how I Austrian economics, because the way those guys explain it and the way they tell you that the other guys are wrong and how they're right by showing you how they're wrong, it just makes fucking sense.
Yeah. You know what I do that for is like the gaming industry, because you have, companies like IGN and all that do all these game reviews, and a lot of them are
worst.
What's that?
Just ass.
Well,
I'm saying IGN's just ass.
Well,
They're
yeah,
just the
because a
worst.
lot of them are paid, to give a good review. So they're semi trustworthy. I mean, they don't like, some of their reviews are legit. Okay, you said that game sucked. That game does suck. Okay, you said that game's good. That game is good. But, from a quality perspective or from a credibility perspective, for me, I'd much rather look at the guy with, 100 followers, because that person's not being paid to say anything. They're just giving their honest opinion. So I think that independent media provides that for us, different perspectives and maybe more of a credible or quality, or not quality, but like a more credible opinion.
Yeah, the IGN stuff is fucking kind of crazy too if you're into gaming, because what was it, that one game Dragon Age that came out? Did you read about this?
No.
What about Baldur's Gate? Like any of those games where you go make a character and like you get to choose your gender and all that stuff and make it,
I heard Baldur's Gate was good, but I didn't.
Baldur's Gate was a banger, apparently. But apparently in Dragon's Age, they introduced like a ton of stuff relating to being trans into it. And there was like specific scenes where like you were like a trans kid at a table and you were given like options to like do certain things. And like, again, I'm paraphrasing. I don't really know what I'm talking about here. I'm just reading it from a cursory sense. It was something along the lines of like you were given the options, but none of the options involved would let you get out of the situation or say that you had a problem with it, basically. And like, so what ended up happening is like, the gaming community is like infamous for like the phrase "go woke, go broke," right? Like that's like, it applies beyond gaming, but a lot of that came from gaming. And so like they mass revolted against this game. It was dog shit sales, and it was supposed to be a huge game. Everyone hated it. But then IGN was over there like, oh my God, 10 out of 10. This is a revolutionary game. Like the things that they're trying here are just so unique and out of the box. And we just can't believe a game was so brave to do this shit. And it's just the disconnect is crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, when you pander, to such a small community like that, you're only going to get, like, I'm just speaking plainly, like when you're pandering to a tiny community like that, you're going to get a small few group of people, the people that you're pandering to identify with said character, and the rest of us, we're probably either, even if you play the whole game, maybe you enjoy the combat or the mechanics or the platforming or whatever, the rest of us are going to have a hard time, identifying with that character, and again, I'm not saying that you can't, you don't have to be trans to identify with a trans character, but I think a lot of people would just generally struggle to put themselves in the protagonist's shoes, if that makes sense. I love RPGs, so for me,
it was something deeper than that though. It wasn't just like character was trans. Like I said, I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember it, but it was actually like a uniquely weird situation where you were at a dinner or something like that, and like the subject comes up, and it's like they're very pushy about it. It wasn't just as simple as the character being trans. I forget what it was. I'd have to look into it again. But it was very preachy, basically.
And you can have trans stuff in the game and have it be totally cool. Yeah. Like they've been using trans stuff in games for years. A great example is Final Fantasy VII. Has anybody not heard of Final Fantasy VII? Well,
it's a banger.
It's like one of the most legendary games ever, and it's beloved by almost everybody. And there's a part in the game.
Who's trans in Final Fantasy?
Well, there's a part in the game where Cloud has to dress up like a girl.
The
Honey Potter. Yeah, with Don Corneo or whatever. And nobody has a problem with that. Actually, it's a really comical part of the game. It's one of the more memorable parts of the game, which has a lot of memorable parts. But yeah, so I don't think the community as a whole doesn't have an issue with trans stuff. I think the community as a whole has an issue with trans stuff and LGBT gay stuff being like shoved down your throat. And I think some trans people and some gay people also have issue with this, because it kind of causes this like backlash. I've seen a couple gay people, lesbians specifically, a couple of them on Twitter, asking Hollywood and the gaming industry to just stop. Because again, they're getting all of this backlash that they shouldn't be getting. For what? For being gay? And it's not their fault that Hollywood and the gaming industry's pushing this shit on the masses. So, it's I don't know. I think that when you say stuff like that, the legacy media just, he's transphobic, he's homophobic.
Yeah.
No, we're not. Well, some of us are, but 99% of us are not,
Right. Yeah, no, it's a complicated one, I guess, right? I mean, everything's complicated these days, I would say.
Yeah, sure. I see shit like that in game. I'm just like, nah, man, I'm just tired. I don't even want it anymore.
I'm just tired.
Well,
I'm
again,
good, bro. I
it's
just want to see you
have
fucking...
Give me guns in a car. Let me go rob a bank and blow some shit up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's one thing to have a gay character in a game or several gay characters or trans characters. Again, that's not new. We can take that all the way back to Nintendo in the 80s where that happens. It's one thing to do that, and it's another thing to like forcibly like push it on people and not have. Go ahead.
I think there's a difference between trans shit in a game and Cloud dressing up like a chick to get past a guard. It wasn't like Cloud was like,
it's more than that. It's more than that.
I don't remember.
He winds up in a bedroom with the Don. We'll with say
the Don,
that.
dude. Because he looked purty.
Because he looked purty, yeah.
The Don was like, "Hey, girl, what's good?"
Yeah. So the idea is that for people who don't know, or maybe Jeff, if you forgot, I know you played that game many years ago. The idea is to get chosen by the Don, as Cloud. So this way you can, you can infiltrate his lair, get chosen by him, and you can put a stop to it. And the cool mechanic is that like you have to go around town collecting X amount of items. You have to collect like a wig, makeup, a dress, and there's like several dresses that you can get, and you don't have to collect all of these items. So depending on how many items you collect will dictate whether you get chosen by him or not. It's a cool little mini game. Yeah. Anyway, there's other examples too, like in the gender example. One of the most famous things I recall as a kid is Metroid. the original Metroid on the NES. We didn't
Yeah.
have the internet back in the day.
Metroid-
yeah.
And if you complete Metroid within a certain amount of time, whatever it is, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever, you will see a scene at the end where Samus takes off his mask, and it's actually a girl. Now, everybody knows that Samus is a girl, and it's widely accepted and a widely beloved franchise. But that shit for me in like 3rd grade or whatever it was fucking mind blowing.
You were like, what?
What?
A girl?
The protagonist
Doing
is a
all
girl?
that?
What? You know, we weren't
Yeah.
mad about it or anything. We were just kind of surprised because I think, or at least I was, because that wasn't something that was common in games those days. You know.
All right,
I was surprised when I found out she was a girl.
The only other topic I had on here to talk to Rob about was 40K.
Was-
You still playing 40K?
Yeah. So we're back now
Yeah.
from the break. Yes,
let's
I'm
talk
playing
40K
40K.
for a second. I think it's awesome that you're still playing that and that you got your brother into it.
Kinda. He's not really into it, but I tried.
I saw his whole
Yeah.
army when I was over his house over the summer.
Yeah, to be fair, I think he bought that, just kind of on a whim, and he got the whole thing, a little bit aggressively, and then I would take him to the place in Randolph to play, and he was never trying to play. So now I think they're just like shelf decorations and collectibles more than anything.
Well,
for
they
him.
are cool, that's for sure. Where
I mean, they're rad. Yeah.
where were you playing in Randolph? It was like a comic book shop?
It's called Mythicos. It was off, what is it, Route 10? I think it's Route 10, right? That's
Yeah.
the one that goes through. Yeah, Route 10. Yeah, I was playing over there. And I got into it during COVID. I mean, I played it when I was a little kid, but like, my shit looked like melted candles when I tried to paint them. Shit was ass. But then I got back into it during COVID. I think a lot of people started doing I know I had a bunch of friends get into D&D during COVID, Warhammer. What's the other one? Magic. Magic made a big comeback, because there's a new game mode where you play 4-player Magic. So everyone started playing that. So I don't know. I guess everybody wanted a way to hang out with people without going to a concert, I guess, or some place where there's 1,000 people. Instead, you keep it to your crew of 4. And Warhammer is 1 or 2 people playing. And so me and my roommate out in Oregon got into it. And then when I moved back, I just stayed into it. And now down here in Florida, I've been painting shit for a local shop actually to get their Warhammer community going. So that's what I've been doing. Actually, today I was in there just painting shit for them. So
That's fun. That sounds awesome, actually.
it's chill. Yeah. I was never an artistic kid. Like I said, I was more math oriented my whole life. That was kind of the way my brain worked. My stick figures all went to hell is what I used to say. And my sister was the artistic one, as I'm sure you know. She would make lovely paintings and things, and I would not. But then I don't know, YouTube happened, right? And suddenly now it's hey, this is how you do it, just fucking do this shit. And it's now anybody can really paint if you feel like it. You just have to sit there and watch someone do it who explains to you what they're doing, and then now you can paint too. So that's pretty much what happened with that.
You're the Bob Ross of 40K characters.
Yeah, something like that, dude.
I think
you
if
got yeah, what?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to tie that into current events and say, did you guys hear that Henry Cavill's about to be spearheading a 40K show in Amazon?
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, is the last I heard, well, I knew he was going to do it, but his biggest dilemma was he wants to be a character that he wants to be and who doesn't die, because all the good characters die in their stories. So he needs to find someone to do multiple seasons of.
Nah, that's not real. There's no way that's real. Because there's so many of them that have been alive for fucking ever. I mean, we'll put it this way. It would depend how they would handle it, right? Do you guys know anything about 40K?
Yeah, we used to play.
The lore.
I know the lore is super deep. There's so much fucking lore.
I know a bunch of. I've gone down the rabbit holes of the Ultramarines and the Blood Angels, and I read the Codex Space Wolves 15 times. I know Ragnarok and shit, but I don't know. I know a little bit of the Horus Heresy, but I don't know.
That's the big thing. That's the big dilemma, because the Horus Heresy is the foundation of everything that ever happens in 40K. And it has all the big players in 40K, which ideally that would probably be who Henry Cavill would be one of the sons of the Emperor or something like that, one of the Primarchs. But there's a big 5,000 year time gap between the Horus Heresy and 40K, and in that 5,000 year time gap, all the Primarchs are just gone. They're all lost. So so maybe instead of it being that like he would be worried about his character being dead, it would be more like lost. But that's like a technicality, I guess.
Or what if they just did a time jump? Like they set the
They would
premise in
have to.
season 1 and then season 2 5,000 years later, and then
but
boom.
there's so much 40K lore. Like, do you even do the Space Marines, or you do like Imperial Emperor Karatus or whatever the fuck it is? Do you
They have to do Space Marines. They have to. Like they absolutely have to. Like, because it's like the biggest budget 40K project that's ever happened. And if you're the biggest budget 40K project that ever happened, and you don't do Space Marines, everyone is gonna shit on you. I will shit on you. Like literally, dude. Like, what are you doing at that point? Like,
who do you think he could be? Like,
it depends. Like, if they go heresy, it could be a bunch of people. If they go post heresy, it could be a bunch of other people. It depends. Or if they decide to do a time skip, then there's really only 2 people he could be, which would be Rabute Gilliman or the Lion, which are the 2 Primarchs that came back in 40K already.
Which one? What chapters?
Rabute is the Ultramarines. The Lion is the Dark Angels.
Okay.
Yeah, and Lehman Russ would be your boy from the
Space Wolves.
Space Wolves. So with there's speculation he's coming. The way they're doing it right now in current tabletop is basically they're bringing back a Chaos Primarch and a Loyalist Primarch, like one after the other. And they just brought back another Chaos Primarch literally last month, which is Fulgrim. And so now that they've brought Fulgrim back, because Space Wolves are the current most popular chapter that don't have a Primarch back, there's like we're thinking like a 90% chance that it ends up being that Lehman Russ comes back. So Space Wolves will get their Primarch probably soon.
Space Wolves also has so many models already made, because that's when
they all do.
When I was in middle school and like early high school is when I was interested in that shit, and that's 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it's just that generic Space Marines have so many models made. You paint them to become Space Wolves. Like, they only have about like 10 unique Space Wolves units,
Yeah.
But then there's like 500 that are like Space Marines,
And
so
and then they had the Ragnar, they had the priest, they had the other dude.
They had the lightning claws that were, I think, Space Wolves.
Yeah, those
Maybe
guys
not.
are chads.
They look
like
like Wolverines, but in armor.
Yes.
Yeah,
I forget what the hell they're called. I don't play Space Wolves, but that's accurate. I mean, really, there's really no wrong character for him to be. He could literally just be a Space Marine captain, or he could be a custody, because he plays custodians in real life. That's his army that he plays is custodians. Do you guys know what those are?
I'll pull it up. I forget. I have to look at them.
They're basically the Emperor's Space Marine chapter in a way. Like, that's a good way to put it. They're his bodyguards. They're, all the Space Marines are made from a specific Primarch. Like, they have their DNA and they turn them into Space Marines based on that Primarch. The custodians are the ones that are made straight from the Emperor. So they're actually immortal, and they're way more chatted out than like Space Marines are.
Yeah, I remember the Space Wolves lore, because it was almost kind of like Spartan lore. Like, the kids are thrown out as babies into the fucking into the cold planet, and they got like kill a wolf and shit.
Yeah, those dudes right there that he's showing. Those are the golden Giga Chads, they call them.
Yeah, look, $60 for what? For how many?
Three of them.
Yeah. Do they come painted? I doubt it.
Fuck no. You got to paint them. You just get that shit 3D printed these days, though.
You could do that.
But yeah, I think the show's got like a ton of potential. But I mean, there's also it's Amazon, right? So they could fuck it up, I guess.
So that's my thing, right? Is because I know this is a passion project of Henry Cavill, and I'm sure if they give him like full, complete control over how the story goes and everything, it would be great. But if anybody followed The Witcher, the studio got involved and they messed the whole thing up.
That was one of his beefs was, I don't want 40K to be that.
Yeah. So I don't know that they will give him full creative control, and if they don't, then I have some serious concerns about the studio meddling and messing everything up.
I mean, for Amazon, for what it's worth, it has decent shows.
Yeah, but did you see the Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings show?
Yeah.
Ass.
But they did a shitty job.
It's fucking terrible.
Fucking ass.
But did they fuck up the story to make it any kind of agenda, or did they just do a shitty telling the story?
How do you fuck the story up? It's already written. All you have to do is just fucking take what's on the pages already and just
wait. To be fair, that part of the story was written weird. That was written in like almost like a biblical way, like because they're taking all that shit from like the Silmarillion and stuff like that, and like
Yeah,
that
but
was like he wrote that in like Bible terms. So it was like they could have, there's a bunch of ways they could write it and fuck it up, I guess, like as
all right.
opposed to like the
That's
actual
fair.
books. Yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, I didn't like that show. And again, who's involved? Amazon.
Well, Amazon Reacher is good.
Okay.
Bosch was good.
I'm not saying Amazon doesn't have any good shows. I just, from
I'm
the shows
saying-
that I've seen from them, I have concerns
All right, well,
about
I'm
studio
giving-
meddling.
Amazon deserves isn't Netflix when it comes to the agenda shit. And based on what I've seen come off of Netflix, that they have no problem doing violence and shit.
Yeah, but you said there's no agenda. Again, if you've seen The Rings of Power, there's a clear agenda. Galadriel, who's awesome and one of the coolest characters in The Lord of the Rings, is essentially this girl boss. Like, she already knows everything. She doesn't need any fucking help. If the end of the show ever comes about, she's going to save the fucking day. Nobody helped her. Nobody needed to. She already knew everything. She didn't fucking learn anything. Like, there's no character arc. There's no character growth there. Which I think is a big problem with and I love females, and I'm cool with female protagonists. There's some legendary ones. Ripley from Alien, for example.
Right.
Homegirl from Underworld. What's her name from Kill Bill? So we can
Kill
go
Bill
on
goes
and
hard.
on about
Uma
strong.
Thurman.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Uma Thurman.
Uma Thurman. So I was going to say, we can go on and on about strong female characters, which I think nobody has a fucking problem with. Like, we love them. But when you go this girl boss route where, she already knows everything, she doesn't learn anything, it's just, it ruins there's no, it's hard to like resonate with a character,
What I've only saw season 1 of The Rings of Power, and I didn't get I didn't really like it. I didn't get the Netflix vibe from it, that they were fucking it up because of that. I just thought it was a shitty fucking show.
Well,
and it also wasn't Peter Jackson. It just wasn't what came before it, so it was already tainted by not being that.
Yeah, I think by all accounts and purposes, it should have been highly successful. Just because it's Lord of the Rings, like
Right? Just because Peter Jackson. Imagine if Peter Jackson fucked up Lord of the Rings, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. He made a
that's
classic.
true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the average movie runtime would still probably be 90 minutes. After Lord of the Rings came out, I feel like every studio was like, "Hey, we can start making 2.5, 3 hour movies."
What I'm saying is, if it's Amazon, I'm like, all right, it's Amazon. It could be good. When you think Netflix, I'm like, it's gonna fucking suck.
Yeah, there's already been some controversy around it. Now, apparently, that's why it's been taking so long. So if you know anything about Space Marines, you know that they're all male, right? So
I didn't know that.
Allegedly,
we had this conversation, Paul, that there was a problem with the lore. I remember having a conversation with you and Ed on the text message, and then I said they wanted to write new lore to add girls to it, and the lore never had girls.
Yes. So supposedly, like this is like big time, like 40K rumor mill right now. But apparently, Amazon was like, the show needs to have a female Space Marine, and Cavill was like, "Fuck no."
Yeah,
and he's like, and that's why, because they announced this shit like, I don't know, it's been like 5 years now since they announced it, and we haven't heard a peep. And apparently, that's why like it was going to development hell basically. And like if you go back 5 years, you're in the middle of like the woke epidemic, like. We literally just turned the corner from that shit. So you have to add that context to it, where it's like they were like, we need a female character. And like that's what people were thinking. And the compromise that apparently came out of that was that they made one of the custodians female. And they started printing a book where like the dudes you just looked up who have never been female before, they started making them female. And that was a huge controversy in the community because they've been called the Brotherhood. They're supposed to be better than the Space Marines, and people were freaking out about it. And the conspiracy theory is basically Games Workshop, the company that does 40K, put their foot down, and Cavill put their foot down about female Space Marines, but they conceded female custodians because it's like way less important, I guess. So that way now they could have like a demigod female character in the show potentially and still maintain all male Space Marines. But I suspect if Cavill, last I heard, he was given full control. And it was literally recent information where it was like, it seems like he is going to be going. He made a Twitter post like recently where they were like, yeah, he's going to be going ahead with the show, and he thinks it's in a good spot, and it's going to be all true to the lore, which implies that like they're gonna not do it woke, and everyone's got high hopes for it. So
Well, that is promising. Again, if Cavill has full creative control, that's fantastic, and the show should be really fucking good.
I think it'll slap.
Yeah, it should.
sure.
If yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it failing if that's the case. I
Mhm.
mean, Robbie, there's female characters though, right? In 40K, maybe not Space
Lots of 'em.
Marines.
Yeah, Sisters of Battle, Sisters of Silence,
So, yeah, so
Imperial
it's
Guard.
not like you can't have females in the show. They're just
Yeah, the problem is the power dynamic, right? Because like if you look at the power hierarchy of what's going on, you have your guard, your Imperial Guard, you have your Sisters of Battle, maybe your Sisters of Silence up here, and then Space Marines are like that, and it's like, so you're gonna have all these female characters who, when a Space Marine walks by, they're gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe what I'm seeing, right? And like they don't want that. That doesn't fit the girl boss DEI woke dynamic, right? They want them to be like, they want men to be standing there and going, oh my God, I can't believe how powerful that woman is, right? And they want her to hold like the authority in the show. And like that's where the problem is. It's not so much that they can't have a female in the show, because like
it's the behavior.
any universe can have females in it. It's just that, are they the most powerful thing possible in that universe or not? And that's where the problems come in.
And if you change the lore to fit a character, you ruin the story. You're like you're
yeah, and you alienate the fan base, right?
Yeah, you can't just add a character and add all this. It's just already been written. You can't like write in a person who's been important for 1,000 years who's never mentioned in 1,000 years.
Dude, I think more has been written on 40K lore than religion, maybe. Like,
I know it's huge.
It's insane, dude.
I have a nerd buddy that I work with, and he has all kinds of knowledge on all kinds of nerdy stuff, everything from Norse mythology to 40K. And yeah, he went on a dissertation the other day for about 30 minutes with me, just breaking down all the different lore.
Dude, speaking of Norse mythology, dude, I wonder. I think it was maybe my brother who told me that you're into like reading about like who wrote the Bible and all that stuff, or like any of that shit.
We talked about that briefly the other day.
Dude, okay, so I was actually wanting to ask you about that. What is your like? Where did you look into? Like, because I was reading about most recently. I was reading the history of the land of Israel because I wanted to better understand like the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Like, I wanted to understand like whose land is it? How long was it their land? How long was it this person's land? Like, if I'm going to argue with somebody about this shit and have an opinion, I want to know from the beginning. So I've been listening to that.
Yeah. If you want something to listen to on that, listen to Dave Smith versus RFK.
Oh, I bet that's interesting. Dave Smith is on the of the Palestinian side of things, right? He thinks the Israelis are straight up wrong.
Well, he's not, and no one's wrong or right. It's just here's what happened, and this is the history, and it really doesn't matter if Israel had the land 2,000 years ago, because then the Romans had it, and then the Turks had, the Ottomans had it, and then the Rothschilds gave England a bunch of money to give them a piece of the land, and then they moved onto a land.
Declaration.
The problem is that the Palestinians are already there. So the problem is that they formed the state of Israel, and when the Israelis came in, they kicked people out of their homes violently. So it doesn't matter who had land 2,000 years ago. When you showed up in 1918, whatever the hell it was, somebody was already in that house. So those people are fucking pissed. And it's just the historical facts of what happened in the last, since the Balfour Agreement is really where the story starts.
Well, Dave Smith is he's highly critical of Israel, not Israeli people, but the Israeli government,
the state of
Israel, the hierarchy, the people that run the show over there. And he gets a lot of backlash for that, and I think it's kind of funny because he's Jewish. So people call him an anti-Semite and stuff. Like he's a Jew.
But Dave and even RFK, to his credit, even though RFK was eventually on the Israeli side because he's in politics, but the knowledge that they have, like the dates, the names of the agreements, all the peace accords, who was involved in all the peace accords, and who screwed up and who and what, they know so much off the top of their head that they have just an honest debate with so much knowledge of the topic. That's why I say it's the best one. I've seen Dave do.
I gotta watch that.
It's a good one, yeah.
I've seen Dave do at least 10 separate debates, and to his credit, he's done like 20.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about how they. Go ahead.
He wins them all because he knows more than everybody else.
Does he lose ever?
I've never
on
seen
any
him lose.
subject? No.
No,
I've
not
never seen
really.
him lose.
That's
Not
like
on
the
that
last
subject.
person I'd want to debate. I'd want to debate Shapiro before I'd want to debate him for
Shapiro,
sure.
I could debate Shapiro, and I don't even debate people.
I mean,
He's an idiot.
I think I could debate him with the things I have to say, but his raw ability to string sentences together is intimidating.
There's,
you know,
He's quick on the verbal. Yeah.
It's great. It's a hard debate because there's 4 people. It was done by I want to say Zero Hedge hosted it, but I could be wrong. So it's Dave Smith and Czech Unger. You know who he is from the
Young Turks.
So it's the
love that guy. That guy's a blast.
Dave and Unger normally don't agree on a lot of shit because Czech's very progressive.
He sure is.
But they had a debate on Israel, the two of them versus Laura Loomer, who sucks, and Dennis Prager.
Who
Dennis
sucks.
Prager, you know who Prager is, right?
I don't know him. I don't know his name. I probably know his face and voice if he's like in that sphere. You know.
You ever heard PragerU?
Yes.
Okay, so he's the one who owns PragerU. So that whole dynamic of thought.
Okay.
And Dave's telling the story the next day after the debate, and something I always remember. He's like, I'm going against Dennis Prager. I got my shit together. I was really expecting a fucking challenge, and then the first thing Prager said was like, just straight narrative, and the narrative, and Dave's like, this guy's got nothing, and I'm gonna own him. So
I was gonna say, to be fair, I've heard him say that almost after almost every debate that he's ever had. Basically, I haven't seen the RFK one, but he seems to say that a lot. And to be fair to him, it seems to be the case that he does absolutely just eviscerate everybody.
Yeah, because he's like, people only know, like, really only know like the main talking points that we always thought were true. And Dave has done the homework. And if you do the homework and you just like, no, that's not correct. No, that's not correct. And I can tell you why it's wrong, because on September 7th, 1963, after the 6-Day War, there was a meeting between A, B, and C, and the other side of the table was D, E, and F, and they said this and they said that, and then this guy walked away. He knows everything.
Yeah, he's extremely detail oriented for sure.
And Bobby's the same way. They agree on everything, and at the end, Dave's like, so Bobby, is there a strong Jewish lobby? Is it more powerful than anything else? And RFK's like, there's a lot of strong lobbies in Washington.
Do you have concerns about the level of Israeli influence in our politics here in the United States of America?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Got him.
Yeah, so RFK, it's before RFK dropped out of the race. So
yeah, does that relate? So does that relate to like the Candace Owens thing with the Daily Wire? How when they parted ways? Because I had heard it was an issue over Israel, and she was spouting off a lot of like anti-Israel stuff, and obviously Shapiro had a problem with that, and I think that's like probably she's pretty good with facts and shit too. I think not like Dave Smith, but I imagine that she might have been parroting some of his information, or like just using the same info, and it got her separated from Daily Wire.
A lot of the stuff that's coming out through independent media is giving voices to people who would normally be heard because of what they have to say doesn't fit the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And Shapiro brought on Candace for all the other like conservative shit that she's good at.
He brought her on for the DEI and the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff like that.
Damn, dude, he was guilty of DEI for that's
no,
crazy.
no, because Candace speaks out against it. So so he brought her on because she was arguing against DEI and.
And she's in a unique position to do so as a black female.
Well,
so
being black, I think that was
and female.
That was and being female, I think
that's supposed to hit the ears of the left and make them be like, oh, I can listen to this person, but instead they just call everybody crazy. So
two of my favorite economists of all time,
right,
are two of my favorite economists of all time is Sowell and Walter Williams, who are both black.
Economists?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're both black. They both started out as leftists, and in Sowell's case, he was a straight, full-blown Marxist at one point. And then they're like, "What changed you?" He's like, "Oh, facts."
Yeah.
He's like, I read some shit, realized I was wrong, and now he's one of the most legendary economists, like voices of our generation type people.
Really?
I love Soul. Soul's the
Yeah,
shit.
smart dude for sure.
I wanted to actually, I'm very interested in I wanted to stay on the Palestinian thing for a second, if you don't mind, because like you saw, I'm gonna go watch that debate for sure. But I'm just curious because I know you're a reasonable, logical person. What did it do for you, like watching that? How has your opinion changed based on what you saw?
I grew up very conservative. I was a hardcore Republican, so I was a Bush guy. So I was Israel's our best friend. Israel would never do anything against us. We're allies. We're buddy. And the truth is, we're not at all.
Yeah, they just take and don't give,
So,
that kind of thing.
The more I learned, I didn't like start hating Israel. I was just like, oh, here's some more facts I didn't know. So now the story is the story, and I'm just seeing it for what it is.
Okay. So then let me ask you this. Let's say long term, right? Like the big picture. Is the Middle East better off in 70 years with Israel having been created or not?
Oh, well,
I don't mean today. I mean 70 years from today, like further on.
I think that the only possible scenario is either a two-state solution, or you just let them battle it out and let each other get one of them conquers the other side.
Yeah, genocide, basically, right?
Yeah, there's definitely.
Just we don't like saying the word.
Facts.
But,
I mean, it is what it is.
That is between what I learned from listening to Dave debate, and not just Dave, other people. I just use Dave and RFK because it's
Jeffrey
the best
Sachs is another one who talks about Israel a lot.
John Mersheimer's great also. So is Scott Horton and Daryl Cooper. But I don't not like Israel. I don't like Israel. I don't hate Israel. I don't like the Palestinians. I don't hate the Palestinians. It's just here's two groups of people who have a fucked up history, and that's just what it is. Here's the story, and here we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like to take the humanity out of it sometimes and think about it that way. And I know that sounds like you're not supposed to ever say anything like that. Like, oh, take the humanity out of it and think of it that way. But that's what I'll do sometimes. It's just like consider like, forget the children and this person and that person, and then it's all horrible what's happening. Okay, whatever. I get it. But if you were to just suspend thought on that for a second and suspend your emotions and the human element, what makes the world a better place in 60 years? Is it that Israel thrives, or is it that there's a Palestinian state, And I kind of look at it from that angle, I guess. And I'm thinking to myself, I'd probably rather there be an Israeli state there than another, what will most likely end up being radical Muslim state,
I think that then you got the same problem. It's like you can't just tell the Israelis to get up and go because they're there now. They're not going to fucking leave their house.
Yeah.
I think the best case for everyone would be peace, a two-state solution, and then you just go about your business the way the world should work and just on fucking trade and stuff.
But have they not offered that? Like, did that not get denied in like 2008 or something like that? Like, was there not like a situation there where it was like, hey, we can do this, and they were like, no, fuck you?
Somebody always walks away from the table on purpose because
was it Yasser Arafat? That was his name, right?
Well, it's mostly the Israelis who find a way to sabotage the peace talks because there's two different parties in Israel, the same as there's everywhere else.
Here.
There's the pro-war party, and there's the party that just wants fucking peace, and they can live because their people are humans too. It's just we can stop killing each other. But Netanyahu's party purposely funds Hamas with the purpose of not being able to have a two-state solution. We can't have a two-state solution as long as Hamas is fighting us. So Israel pays Hamas to keep funding their war against them so they can use that as an excuse to take the land. It's about
Are they still doing that right now? Because it seems to me like they're not doing that right now. It seems like they're just killing all of them. How are they going to pay them to fight if they're just killing all of them?
They did it on purpose. They funded them. We knew that the Israelis knew a year ahead, almost a year in advance that attack was coming. They knew.
That's why it was so suspicious, right? Because it was like they got intel.
They used it as the catalyst to start a new war.
Okay.
There's also the response time. Like, it took the
4 hours
IDF
later or something, right?
What's that?
It was like 4 hours later.
Yeah, it took like 4 hours. Israel's like the size of New Jersey, right? I can drive from the top of New Jersey to the bottom in about 3 hours as a civilian.
Damn, dude. Yo, that means that some motherfucker at an army desk got the call and was just like,
yeah, let's just
coffee,
let's
sandwich.
hold off on that.
We'll deal with it though after.
Yeah, it definitely, at least from the facts that I've seen, it looks like Israel absolutely allowed that to happen. Like, I don't know if it was quite a year in advance. I heard they were notified days in advance. Egypt was one of the governments that notified them.
Egypt had warned them that within that at least, I want to say a year, but we'll say 6 months just to be fair. At least 6 months in advance that they were planning an attack. It's not like they just woke up and did this. They planned it out. They practiced. And Israel has the greatest surveillance on Earth.
Right.
It took 4 hours to get
starts
there.
with an M, right? What's their
Mossad is their agency, but I'm talking
Mossad,
about their technology. They know what everybody's doing in fucking Gaza at all times.
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick, I do want to be fair that October 7th, whether Israel allowed it to happen or not, was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not condoning what happened to the Israeli people at all.
What we're talking about is that it happened. So why did it happen? Who planned it? There's no denying the fact that Netanyahu and his faction of the Israeli leadership have bent over backwards to not have peace with the goal of taking over the land. Not just Gaza. They want the West Bank. They want the bottom of Syria. They want Lebanon and all that other fucking territory that they're fucking around in right now.
Oh, you think that they're basically like, what's the word for that? Like, I mean, expansionist, yes, but like, I don't know. They've been saying that about Putin with Ukraine too. Like he's is it imperialist? I don't know. There's like a term for it where they're just kind of trying to expand their borders all the time.
Yeah, imperialism is a good word.
Yeah, so you think that they have imperialist desires, basically?
100%. They're not even shy about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, to be fair though, if they wanted to do that, obviously, so what I'm about to say is, wouldn't they just do it? And obviously, they are just doing it now. Right, they are just doing it now. But wouldn't they have done it already? Because they kind of kicked everyone's ass over there already.
Right, but also under the pressure of the United States and world opinion, they haven't. Advanced to.
Which is why you need a disaster to happen.
Listen, Jeffrey Sachs, who tells the story a lot, it's been a long-term plan between Israel and the United States to disrupt 7 countries in the Middle East: Iraq, Iran, Libya, Yemen, Syria. And this has been their plan for years. It's all written down.
Yeah, but so I got to ask though, like, for the most part, most of those countries are run by Islamic extremist governments, are they not?
I don't think that's accurate. I think some of them might be. Go ahead.
Which ones aren't?
Well, Syria, like Assad, for example, I heard was well liked. Again, I don't know. It's what I read, that he was well liked by his people. There was no issues. I don't know. Jeff probably has more information on this than I do.
I can't tell you which ones are what's considered a Muslim extremist. It's not the theory that they all just want to kill the Jews and wipe out Israel is false. But again, the reason that everybody's mad at Israel is because of the way Israel was created. The most recent state of Israel was created.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
They cut up a piece of land that wasn't theirs, and then were brought into it and took it over, and did some real ruthless shit to achieve those goals. They were the original terrorists in that region, because that's what they use terrorism tactics to scare the people out, to take them out of their homes and to take their land. And they pushed them all into Gaza, and then they treated Gaza as an open air prison, especially since 2015 or whenever it was.
They were bombing refugee camps. I mean, those are war crimes.
Recently you mean, right?
Within the last year.
Yeah,
but it's been an ongoing thing.
Oh, I know they've been wreaking havoc in Gaza for decades now. We just didn't really hear about it, at least mainstream, until recently. If you ask me, the Israeli government is a terrorist state. If you ask me, not the Israeli people, but the government.
The genocidal, for sure.
For sure.
But they're working on it, which is kind of ironic if you think about it. But
it is. They're calling everybody else terrorists, and they're probably the biggest terrorists in the vicinity.
Also, I meant the genocide thing too, because their country was founded because of genocide. So the Holocaust, right? So
well,
yeah,
supposedly,
yeah. Oh shit, really?
No, not that part.
Okay.
The state of Israel wasn't founded because of what it started before that.
They've been trying to establish the state of Israel since World War One. I actually just saw a bunch of stuff on it the other day.
Yeah, well, the was the Balfour, right?
The Balfour Declaration, which was like
Balfour
1933 or something like that.
Yeah,
It was before.
But it started off before that.
It was before World War II even started. They were already trying to get that established.
This is World War One.
Yeah.
At the end of World War One is when this all happened, because England took a loan to keep fighting the war, and part of the agreement to get that loot was to slice up a piece of land in Palestine or Israel, whatever you want to call it, the Palestinian area.
Yeah.
And they purchased it through funding the war in World War One. And then when America won the war, everyone thought America was going to chop up the land and I know because the Allies, and when we fought in World War One and World War Two, they rose up against the Turks, and then they also fought with us against the Germans.
Who did?
The tribes in the whole area. There was
the Palestinian territory. You mean in
yeah,
there?
The Egyptians, Palestinians, Assyrians, all groups of people, all in because it was somebody else's land. You know what I mean? It wasn't Syria. It was the Ottoman Empire, and they broke up into
all the different countries there now.
Right, but those lines were also carved up by the British purposefully. That's what if you look at a map, the land isn't cut into natural borders, rivers or mountains or plains or deserts that would normally define the territory of a land, of a ruling group, of a state. It was cut up on purpose, almost like gerrymandering, to have a majority and a minority of two groups of people who didn't get along, and then put the minority group in power to oppress the majority. And you can look at that in almost all of the countries over there that are divided up by the Brits.
Damn, that's why they're all so pissed off, huh?
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of turmoil there, because they basically just they took no accountability when they were dividing up the territories based on like religion or culture or like like race of people. None.
There should be a Kurdistan technically, but the Kurds are in like 6 different countries in that loop, and they get fucked with by everybody else because they're in different states.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy. I mean, how do you, that's the most unsolvable problem ever, really. Like, the Middle East is the biggest shit show on the planet, I think. Like, it is really something else. Like, if you try to think about, like, a logical way out of, like, pretty much every problem on Earth, like, you can have a conversation and you can find, like, we could get there. We'd be like, yeah, you do this, this, and this, and then this will be okay. When it comes to the Middle East, though, I feel like that one's just like, fuck if I know.
Yeah. If you want to get more into, well, you're going to learn it real quick, the history, when you listen to Dave Smith and RFK.
Yeah, I'll be listening to it this week for sure, no doubt.
Scott Horton is he runs the Libertarian Institute, but he's also runs antiwar.com. And then John Mearsheimer is like the greatest living geostrategic person ever.
Geostrategic?
Yeah,
as far as like going and like understanding.
Yeah, great power.
The globe.
Great power politics. I got his most recent book. It's called How States Act, or Why States Act, or whatever. It has to do with the power dynamic of nation states and how states themselves, if you put yourself in their shoes, they act rationally. They might not be rational to us, but like he uses a lot with Putin and Ukraine. Like, we drove Putin into invading Ukraine because strategically, for Russia's what's the phrase I'm looking for?
National interest, right?
Not even a national interest. They're it's something threat, like an external threat.
It's like the ability to strategically defend yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
Like by
Crimea was a huge part
so
of that.
Either we pushed him into that. His move had to be an invasion of Ukraine. We forced him into a corner to make them do that. We did this.
That situation is fucked up. That's
what
this is
we force countries into situations to make a move that we can then use to justify what we're doing. So to say, you can argue that it wasn't justified, but Putin was definitely provoked into making that move, because he didn't have to do that.
No.
Well, we've been provoked. Go ahead.
They did it purposely. They did it because they need an enemy, and they need to keep the military-industrial complex humming, and they need to keep American power.
You're saying America needs an enemy?
Yeah.
We made Putin an enemy after the collapse of the Civil War.
Correct. Yeah.
At the end of the Cold War, it was Bush was the first Bush. In one of his speeches, mentioned something about like it's a new world, and we have to define and figure out what America's role in the future is going to be.
Yeah.
And we chose to piss in everybody's pool, which I like to say a lot, and throw our weight around.
We sure did.
And the best way to do that is to have an enemy. And if you can make Russia that big bad enemy.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many layers to that too, because like what you were saying about pissing in everybody's pool. I find that it's funny to me because it leads into two different types of I guess liberals in a way, right? And to explain that, I mean like you have I would say like the uninformed liberals who are basically just very mad about everything that we do all the time.
Everything.
And yeah. But then you have like the really informed ones who they look at the thing of us pissing in everybody's pool, and it's like now that you have a guy who's proposing that, like, you know, because it's like they're now wanting to be mad at Trump basically for going and saying like, hey, because we you know, if you're pissing in everybody's pool, it becomes a vicious cycle, right? You can't just take the piss out of the pool for the most part. You have to keep pissing in the pool, more or less, you know, or you might as well. And that's kind of like how American policy has been for like the last 20 years, is that we just continuously just keep pissing in people's pools. And right. And then Trump comes along and he's basically like, hey, yes, we pissed in all of your pools. We're going to stop doing it, but we don't owe any of you anything at all. In fact, we can you guys kind of owe us for some things in certain areas, right? The few good things that we did give you, you guys kind of owe us for that kind of thing now. And it's like, that's where I see like the intelligent liberals jumping in and being like, okay, well, like, shouldn't we, like, don't we owe people things, basically? It's like, seems like that's the sentiment. It's like, we kind of owe people things. Like, what is that? Like the USAID thing? Like you were talking about with the dude was on here, the other time. It's almost like his sentiment, it seemed like, was something along those lines with like the USAID stuff. It's like, well, shouldn't we have like soft diplomacy going on around the world? Like, isn't that a thing that we should be doing with like giving Sesame Street to like whatever country, Iraqis or something like that? Shouldn't we be paying for stuff like that to play the long game? And because we did X, Y, and Z, and then Trump's basically just saying like, no, we don't care about anybody. We don't care that the last 20 years or 30 years of presidents pissed in your pool. We care about us now, and we have the power to only care about us. So we're going to go ahead and do that to like power level 10 here.
Well, well, the USAID. I mean, like I said with Greg, it's just the CIA slush fund to overthrow nations and to push
and make a Sesame Street show, apparently.
Do we need to spend $200 million of American dollars that could be going somewhere else, or at least back to the people, to now propagandize Afghanistan or Iraq, whatever it was, to say, oh, Americans are good now, even though we spent the last 25 years bombing the fuck
destroying your country?
Well, but he made a really good point with that, because like his logic is essentially that, well, yeah, we should, because that's what the right thing to do would be, is that we now give these kids, like, I guess you have to take it from the angle of like Western culture. And it's like, you know, you can get into this debate all day, but is Western culture better for the world than Islamic extremism? Yes or no, right? If Western culture is better for the world as a whole than Islamic extremism, then, you know, you want more people to convert to it. So if you're in a situation where you've destroyed an entire country and now you have full range to raise a generation and propagandize them, like, what are you going to do it with? Like their national stuff? Or are you going to do it with like Western culture, right?
We didn't win. We left.
Did I say win?
Well,
I thought I said destroy.
destroy it, then you said free reign. Like, we don't really
Right.
have free reign to tell. Like, who are we to tell them what they have to do? Like, do we want other people funding? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, who are we?
I agree with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit because I kind of saw his point. I hadn't thought about it that way, and it put into context some of the anger. I think because, like, you know, like it's like a thing where it's like I feel like I never meet intelligent, like super liberal people. Like their arguments are always so emotional and dumb to me, and it's just like,
Right.
how do you have these opinions? But then you meet somebody and they're articulating it in a way where it's like, okay, I see that angle. I still don't like it. Like I still don't agree with it. I'm on your side. Like I agree with what you're saying. But I'm seeing that sentiment now where it's like at some point, if you're doing all this stuff where you're, again, to use your term, pissing in everybody's pool, if you want to get out of that, at some point there has to be like a day of reckoning where somebody comes in with a wrecking ball and does a bunch of really uncomfortable shit. And that's what we're living through right now, right? And it's funny to me, I guess, in a way that there's a certain angle that's being taken where it's like, hey, yeah, we should probably stop doing that. But the problem is that because we did it for so long, I feel like we owe everybody things, you know? And it's like, that's the kind of butting of heads right now. It's like Trump is like the opposite. He's like, we don't owe anybody anything because if we did that, we'll never make any progress ourselves. But then like the intelligent liberals are like, yeah, but that's kind of fucked up, right?
Well, that's like reparations. Do we owe you for blowing up your fucking country? Like, wouldn't you rather, if you were put yourself in the shoes of somebody over there, do you want Sesame Street or do you want Americans to buy your fucking wheat or to buy what you're producing? Like, cooperation in trade and making your people better off by working together is a way better way to spend money and resources than funding a Sesame Street program for people who don't give a fuck about Sesame Street. You know?
Well, again, what's involved in the Sesame Street program?
Like,
you know,
we don't.
Yeah, I wonder,
what's
actually,
the
I'm
agenda?
curious.
Is there an
probably
agenda?
kind of sick.
It's not.
Iraqi Sesame Street
If the
probably goes
CIA
hard,
is
dude.
involved, there's an agenda. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeff.
It's not in anyone's best interest to be involved in the inner workings of another state.
Unless your idea is that you will completely and totally change their ideology over time via your propaganda, which is, it's not unheard of. It's happened before.
But for whose benefit? Because again, if the CIA is, do you trust the United States government, the CIA, the FBI, any of them, to propagandize a different country with a positive outcome?
No, I don't. But again, to take that dude's angle and to kind of like put myself in that mental state, I can't necessarily knock them for trying, you know?
I hear you. So I'm going to repeat the same thing I said when me and Greg had the conversation. Then I'm going to give you a different approach. So, yes, I totally, Greg has a great point, and I totally agree with him. We've messed up all of these countries, you know, for decades now. We've ruined them. We've destroyed them. We've killed people. And now we have a whole bunch of, growing up generations, younger generations that hate us. Who hate us.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. Of course they fucking hate us. If I was them, I'd probably hate us too. So my take is, first of all, we have some serious issues here. We got serious economic issues. We have people that, can't afford to buy homes, can't afford to pay bills. So what I would suggest is we fix that first. We get Americans to a point where, our economy's healthy. People are able to do stuff. Nobody's crunching numbers. Nobody's working 3 jobs unless they really want to, right? And then when we get to that point, whatever that is, takes 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the fuck. Yes, I agree. I think we should help some of the countries that we have destroyed, essentially.
Good. Then donate your money to an organization that does that.
We could do that.
It does not do it by the use of extortion of the people to help another country.
That's fair. So again, I'm just giving my general take. Do I expect the entire United States to agree with me? Of course not. And if a bill got sent today, it would probably get rejected. Like Greg said, he said something similar about like he would like to do that, but he's fully aware that most people are not gonna, or not most, but a lot of people won't be on board with that. So what I would suggest, instead of creating Sesame Street episodes or trying to propagandize them, we can go about it a different way. Why don't we go over there? You can trade, but why don't we go over there, build shit for these people, build them homes?
So you like Trump's plan in Gaza then?
I don't like Trump's plan in the Middle East at all.
But that's exactly what he's proposing to do in Gaza, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's also proposing that we get all the Palestinians out of there while we're rebuilding. That
Temporarily.
sounds,
Well, I mean, it is a wasteland right now. Like, you know?
I get it, but if you take these people out of their homeland, I have a really crazy
strong feeling that they're never coming back.
They're never going to come back. Yeah, and then what happens to them? And then now what monsters are we? You know? And what happens to that land? So I would say, let me use Iraq as an example, or Afghanistan, right? Because Gaza's a shit show at the moment, right? So yeah, I would propose that we go over there. We build, homes. We build schools. We build all these different things. We don't run the schools. We don't dictate what goes in their curriculum. You let the country run itself. But I think that's a way that we could show good faith towards these people. Like, hey, we legitimately want to make amends for the terrible stuff we did. We can't take it back. We're not going to propagandize you through your media or through school or any of that stuff. We're just going to build things for you on good faith. And hopefully one day we can come to an accord.
You can't just go build shit for people. It doesn't work. That's like what the Chinese.
How we go about it is a different story, Jeff. I know you're going to go into the economic bit. Maybe it's a charity, whatever.
If you want to invest, or private companies want to go in there and make deals that are whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not saying the government has to fund it.
We would not expect another country doing that to us. So we shouldn't be doing it to them. And because for whatever reason we were in there, we weren't in there to spread democracy or to free them from their tyrannical, crazy Islamic extremist government. We do business as the United States, not as a nation state, does business with all types of fucked up countries all over the world. Mm-hmm. So being like, oh, we owe it to Afghanistan, we owe it to Iraq. We've done over 100 coups, failed and not failed. We like the United States, Belarus is like buddy with Russia, and in the last 15 years, we've tried to throw a coup, 3 failed coups. Imagine that Russia or China or Iran tried to throw a coup in fucking Mexico or a coup in Canada. You know what I mean? Like,
how would we respond to that? Yeah.
All these wars that we go into, then we feel bad, or we owe it to them for whatever. Like, if we had never done it in the first place, the shit wouldn't have happened. So if I'm living in Iraq, right, and I just spent the last 30 years of America bombing this shit out of
just getting handled.
Yeah,
yeah.
Go the fuck home.
Yeah.
So the idea wouldn't be to sway the minds of those people who have lived through this. The idea would be the future generations coming up, right? Because obviously, if we went over to Iraq, we killed a whole dude's family and shit. His wife's dead, his kids are dead. There's nothing that we're gonna do that's going to fix his issue with us, right?
I think that's an angle. First of all, I agree with you. I agree with both of you. I just want to be really clear about that. Again, I'm looking at the perspective that I heard the other day, and it was just different to me, I guess, to think about it that way. I'm not in any way going there. I'm of the opinion that fuck everybody else. Sorry, shit happened. We're supposed to be like, we have the ability to just say we don't owe you anything, and we'll make this country as good as it can possibly be. And I live in this country, so I like that. And maybe that's a bit cold, but that's my stance. But I can't knock the idea that somebody would be like, hey, it's kind of fucked up that we just leave the world in ruins and just say, sorry that the other guys did this, have fun dealing with that shit. But sorry,
the best way to repair that bridge would be through cooperation, not coercion. And if you are coercing the people through Sesame Street to think a certain way,
NWP,
that is not an accomplishment. Right. If cooperation would be, let our people trade with your people, and they will mutually benefit each other by conducting a trade.
Yeah, or if you want to talk business again, going back to the home thing, we give you guys a bunch of money, you guys build the homes, right? So we will pay for it.
We don't have to do that. What we can do is stop sanctioning them, stop of saying who they can trade with and not letting people trade
Yeah,
with
but
them.
that's not what Greg is exactly saying. And
know what
Robbie's
Greg-
right. Greg has a great point, and I agree with Greg. I think he's right. I think we should
I
make.
hear your point. I'm telling you, I disagree with that point based on individual rights, based on cooperation and not coercion. I understand you feel bad that
It's
we
not
blew.
coercion if we have a charity set up and we just give them money and they build their own shit.
We, as in my tax-paying dollars, or
No,
the
a
ones-
charity, you numbnuts. You know what a charity is?
Yeah,
Fan.
that's
A fucking charity. It means you voluntarily donate or you don't. So you know
Well,
who's
don't
not
they-
going to donate? You.
Do we not?
But I might.
Do they not have those? I mean, I don't know. I would imagine they have to. They have a charity for everything.
Yeah,
they have
no,
a charity
I
for
think
growing
we-
like saplings.
I think we have a miscommunication because Jeff is saying like we're going to use tax dollars for that. That's not what I'm implying, and I don't think
Uh-huh.
that's what Greg was necessarily implying either. Greg's just
Well,
like, hey, we fucked up their
terms-
world. We killed a bunch of their family. How do we fix it? Can we?
What do you
fix
think?
it?
But
Well,
then-
I think he was implying tax dollars because it was going through the lens of USAID, which is using tax dollars, and it was basically just
yeah, that's a good point.
yeah.
and the term soft power was used. The soft power is just a nice way of saying, do what I'm telling you to do or I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah, I don't think it's right to force all American citizens to have to pay reparations to all these countries that we destroyed. That's not fair.
I don't think it's
Because-
right to make Americans go to war for shit that has nothing to do with fucking Americans. But that is what America does, and that's what we've been doing since the beginning.
Yeah, but that
And
doesn't
like-
make it right.
Like I said with Greg.
Like
you know,
Robbie
that-
said, that's morally wrong.
It's definitely not right, but if given the choice to like say fuck everybody and make our country great, or to go do something about that and help everybody and keep shelling out money, I'm taking the latter
I
or
want to do both.
the former.
I want to do both. Again, I want to fix our nation first. You know, make sure
Yeah.
people can actually afford to do shit again. And then once America's on the up and up, yeah, I would be totally okay to giving taxpayer money to those foreign nations. That's not going to fly. It's not going to fly. So what's the next best thing? Maybe charities, maybe private companies, you know. Go ahead.
That's counterproductive to anything.
How is it
Using-
counterproductive?
Using taxpayer dollars is the same as taking the taxpaying dollar away from people here and building something the government
Yeah,
wants.
it's not going to happen. So I said I would be okay with it. Is it realistic that that would actually occur? No, because there's a lot of people that agree with you and are going to be like, no, I don't want my fucking money going overseas. And I
don't-
understand that.
Yeah.
I get
Because
it. That's cool.
You're confusing money overseas to. I don't want my tax dollars taken for any reason, because anything the money is taken from me, that automatically misallocates the proper use of resources for somebody else and their agenda, or even if they think that they're helping you, because the money wouldn't have been used that way. It's
You don't want to be
stolen.
taxed at all.
Yeah, that's fair. So Donald, if you're listening, could you abolish all taxes? We would love that.
Hey, he says he's working on it, man. Tariffs.
Some of
There's
it.
I saw a great thing the other day.
Income
and
tax,
it
I
had to
think.
do with it had to do with the taxing the rich nonsense.
Yeah.
It's like when the IRS was formed, right? And it was like the document was like 2 pages. The first page was we are allowed to tax income, right? And then the rest of the 2 pages is what verifying what income was and the tax rates it would be taxed at, right?
Mhm.
Now the thing is 11,000 pages long, and it's 10,998 pages of exceptions of how people get out of taxes. So the rich, to avoid paying the taxes, will get a law passed or an exception made added to the tax thing to avoid paying higher taxes. That's what the Laffer curve is. If you tax people too much, it comes to a point where they're going to change up, and it becomes the incentive to either hide their money or their money offshore, or to hire an accountant who knows all the loopholes
Mhm.
is going to use, because our tax code is 11,000 pages long.
Oh yeah.
So the
They
moral
gotta
of
trim
this
the fat.
story is end the IRS, end taxes, end the Fed. What else am I
Well-
missing? End the CIA.
Feel
Am I
bad
missing
about
anything?
what we've done, but don't do anything about it.
Well, I'm not on board with that one, but
I'm in there.
What I'm saying, the best thing to do is to not help anymore, because every time we help,
well, again, make it optional. You know, allow those people who want to help to donate. You know, freely.
Isn't Isn't that private though? Like, aren't charities usually privately set up? Like somebody like has a name, like some rich guy with a name is like the fucking Benjamin, Johnson charity.
What Doge is uncovering is that there's a big difference between a charity and an NGO, because the NGOs are getting survive on funding delivered to them from the government, and to keep that gravy train coming, they have to do what the government wants them to do with that money.
So there's a morally like good way to go about this, right? Like if you're running the charity, Robbie, just make everything transparent. You have a public website, everybody can access it. Every single cent that comes in and that goes out is accounted for. You know, so you can see we invested $5 million here to build this apartment complex, and we invested $10 million here, and here's pictures of it, so you know this isn't bullshit and it exists. Here's a video. Here are people, you know, giving reviews on the apartments and or whatever it is. So I think that there's a way to go about it. I'm not that guy. I'm not that smart. So that's not for me to run. But I think there are ways that we could go about maybe making amends to some of the countries, and of course. Not every American citizen will be on board with that, and that's okay.
The best way to make amends would probably be just to stop killing them.
That would be a great start. We should start there.
That's a good start.
Can we just not kill people? That would be wonderful.
The reason they're mad at us is because we killed them. That's why they're fucking mad.
Of course. Well, we don't kill them. We kill their family and friends, because if we killed them, they wouldn't be here to be upset about it.
Them is not us. Them is
well, we kill them, but then them don't exist anymore. So then the remaining them becomes the them.
Yeah, exactly. And what's that old adage, right? Like every time you cut off one head of the Hydra, you just create two more, which is exactly what happens. You kill one, you know, one of these, one person, and, you know, their family members and their friends now hate you, right? And you kill another one, and then the same thing happens. And then you just create more and more enemies. Plus, like killing's wrong, if anybody didn't know that.
And Gaza is children under 18.
What's
because
that?
all their parents.
What'd you say?
50% of the people in Gaza, the population, are under 18.
Oh no shit! And they're all going to grow up to hate us along with Israel. They probably should hate Israel and probably us too.
That's
they
great.
hate us because we act on Israel's behalf.
We do.
And if we stopped acting on Israel's behalf,
we're the muscle.
Israel would have to change up because
we're the wallet.
And the wallet, yeah.
They can no longer lean on us to do the dirty work or to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Because we both do dirty work. We just do the heavy lifting of nation building / put in
Iraqi Sesame Street, baby.
Put in a friendly.
I want to see an episode. I want to know what they got going on.
It actually looked pretty good. Did you see the clip?
No, I didn't see shit.
Oh, it actually it looks pretty entertaining. I watched it.
No way, dude.
Yeah,
that's insane.
I mean, I didn't understand what they were saying because it was in Arabic or whatever. But
that's like a perfect mushroom trip right there, dude. You know what we're gonna do today on these mushrooms? We're gonna watch Iraqi Sesame Street, dude. You know, just be like, oh my god.
I'm not sure it was worth 20 million, but the 30-second clip I saw of it, I was like, all right, it actually looks pretty fucking good.
You know. Damn, dude. Yeah, no, that's outrageous.
Disney, are you paying attention?
Get us Iraqi Sesame Street too.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man.
Anyway. This is probably good because it's been a minute now.
It feels like a good place right there. You know.
Robbie, come on again, and we can get into that futurism shit more. Because
sure. I think I'm gonna go listen to Dave Smith and RFK hash it out and educate myself on that. I'm gonna read Who Wrote the Bible and educate myself on that.
We didn't even get to talk about that.
Yeah, I'll read about that one. And then as far as the futurism stuff goes, you guys go look into some shit and ask me some questions about futurism. I'm super down to talk about that anytime, man.
If you want to look at something else that has to do with America and how the fact that all of our wars have been in the interest of American companies and not the American people. There's a book I mention on this podcast all the time, and it's Smedley Butler's War is a Racket.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that.
He was a high-ranking Marine dude who's been in a bunch of war zones, but back in like the early 1900s. And he's like, I've been in South America and 10 different things to help fucking get better banana prices for.
Oh yeah.
It's short. It's like it's a quick
like basically we'll just murder a bunch of people if it benefits us even marginally in the banana industry or something, anything really, right?
We're not nation building. I'm not freeing people. I'm not fighting against oppressive governments. I'm expanding American business interests with only that.
Yeah,
Jesse
all right,
Ventura?
yeah.
That's not Jesse the Body Ventura, right?
That has to be.
Yeah, it is. Jesse
It has to be.
Is it really? That's awesome.
He's in a compound down in the Baja.
Well, scroll down to the description. Oh, never
Oh,
mind.
snap. I got it. That really is him?
It's gotta be, dude. Who else would be writing about shit like that, dude? It's gotta be.
I don't know many Jesse Venturas, but
There he is. Wait, look down. Related titles. If you go to related titles, you'll see him, his face.
Oh
That's him.
shit, it is.
Yeah, he's the homie, dude.
No shit. Marijuana Manifesto. Okay.
What a
Jesse.
savage, dude. That guy is just goated.
Scroll
Absolutely
up,
goated.
Scroll up. No, to the description.
I would totally insert a clip of Jesse Ventura in this portion of the video right now, but WWE will not let me.
You got if you keep it short, motherfucker.
We got banned for a 10-second clip of Ultimate Warrior.
What?
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
10 fucking seconds. I didn't show the whole match.
All right, you don't have to read the one that has the intro written by Jesse Ventura because his original one's only like 50 pages. You can probably just get a YouTube video of it. That'll sum it up in 10 minutes. But you'll get it because it's all about the interests of. Which means it's why we fight wars. We don't fight war to help other people. We fight wars to help America.
For profit.
Hey, real quick before I go, if you guys do go look into the futurism thing, I want you to think about it in terms of a worldview, right? Because if you can think about it in terms of a worldview as like a thing, like for example, it'll reframe Elon Musk big time. And like the idea is essentially like the first question you ask yourself is, what is the point of humanity, right? Is it that we all just sit here and we get along and we live our independent, fun lives? Or is it that we're working towards something? And like the progress of technology implies that humans kind of just can't fucking help themselves. We are always improving. We're always working towards something. Then you hit the singularity. And then the question is, what does that end up going towards? And the final idea is basically the point of humanity is to create a god.
Are you a god?
No. And that's futurism. That's like it. Like that's where it ends. Is that eventually we create a god, we ourselves become gods, and we ascend to a higher plane of consciousness, basically.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to start with.
There you go.
I already have like 4 videos queued up for your Kurzweil,
right? Kurzweil.
Yeah. So I saw one of his things.
He talks really slow. You know,
I saw Rogan. So I'll probably.
It's going to be a long listen.
Yeah, it's the concept's all over the place. So you guys, there's a lot. So anyway, thanks for having me on. It was chill. I had a good time.
Like and share again at the end.
Yeah.
All right, Robbie. It's good talking to you, man.
Yeah, man. Take it easy, guys.
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.